Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the greatest entitled parent stories we read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled parents you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she won't try to speak to anyone's manager for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And become an official member of the Re-Army today, and I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming video. r/Entitled Parents. Entitled parent tries to enter my apartment to measure the bedroom. So this happened 3 years ago. I was renting a basement apartment that I loved. My landlords were great, aunt and uncle of my childhood friend, and I lived there for 3.5 years. Halfway through, they told me they wanted to sell the place, but probably not that soon, since the husband was working on a commercial ship 9 months at a time. I just asked them to tell me when they decided to sell. Anyway, 13 to 14 months passed, and they decide to start the process. They introduce me to the realtors, everything gets sorted out. Up to this point, everything is going great. Realtors give me the 24-hour notice before they bring buyers, and I can stay home during the showings or go about my business. I have no complaints about them or my landlords throughout the entire process. Then, one day, I just got back from work and I didn't feel like going out again. Realtors came with a family of 5 or 6. It was announced, I just forgot, so I decided to stay. Family consisted of mother, father, adult daughter, and 2 or 3 kids. Can't remember. Father was a piece of work. Now, thing is, I lived in a touristy town on the Mediterranean coast. It was summer. People try to pull all sorts of cons here. Entitled father. I know you said someone lived here, but we had hoped to stay a couple of days to get the feel of the apartment. Realtor. What? This place isn't for rent. OP already lives here. Entitled father. Well, I can't buy something just like that, but okay. Obviously we can't stay the night. Me. Sorry, no, you can't. I live here. He moves on. Measures things left and right, wondering out loud if their large wardrobe will fit into the bedroom. How he wants to buy an apartment for his daughter in case she wants to go to college here. Eventually, they pack up and leave for the beach. I saw them later. Beach was 2 minutes away from the apartment. The next day, there were no scheduled showings, so I decided to do one thing everyone does when they live right next to the beach: take a nap after work. But before my head even hit the pillow, I hear someone coming down the stairs. There were only 2 basement apartments, and my neighbors were away for the week. I get up and go for the door to spy, but before I even made it halfway there, someone rattles the doorknob, and then, 10 seconds later, starts knocking. I was really confused and freaked out. I go to the door, and lo and behold, it's entitled father from yesterday. I do not open my door. Me. Who is it? It's me, entitled father. We were here yesterday. Me. What do you want? I want to measure the space in the bedroom to see if my daughter's wardrobe will fit. Me. No, you're not getting in. But I can't buy the place if I don't know. It's for my daughter. Me. Then call the realtor. They have all the measurements on file. I'm not letting you in. I'll buy this place and evict you. Me. Good luck. I have 3 months left on the lease. You can't do crap about that. My landlords told me if the place sells before my lease is up, contract will state I can't be evicted before my lease is up. I already had a place lined up. Entitled dad starts yelling, and I hear him go away. I called the landlords and realtors after that. They were all mortified and worried someone like that just came to my place, tried to let himself in, and threatened to evict me. Entitled father did not buy the apartment after all because landlords refused to ever deal with him again. Realtors told him it was sold. To this day, I believe their plan was to find a place to crash out for a few days for a free vacation under the pretext of buying the place for their daughter. I still had to improvise webcams around the apartment to keep an eye on it while I was at work for the remainder of my stay there. I spent the entire summer not feeling safe in my home. Do you think they were really interested in renting? Or do you think they were just trying to crash for a few days? Please let us know. There's nothing wrong with crashing. I do it all the time. I can't sell you this animal. So just before Christmas, I got 2 little rats who are my absolute life. I spend more money on treats and toys for them than I do food for myself. They came from my local pet store, and it also happens to be where I go for most of their stuff. I made an effort to learn as much as I could about the animals before I got them and carried this on after getting them. At this point, I know how to handle and deal with them more than the staff there do. They only get basic handling training. It's not their fault. So sometimes the staff asks me questions that can help them in their future. Mid-lockdown, I went in to grab some food and bedding for my 2 boys when I was pulled to the tank of rats with 2 boys in it. I had handled the boys already when they were little before the lockdown. That was about 8 weeks prior. Asked about the selling policies because they were getting too big for the tank and I felt really bad for them. After some time talking to the staff, the manager eventually let me adopt them because they trusted I could give them a loving home and the attention that they just won't get in the store. They are the most spoiled rats ever, I swear. Since then, I've been in a lot, buying stuff and talking to the staff and getting to know them well. Due to the distancing restrictions, the animal area is barricaded off so customers can't get in there. One of the managers came up to me asking if I'd be able to have a look at a couple of the girls they have had there as well since before the lockdown because one of them seems aggressive. They don't know how to handle her or what to do. I take a look and quickly deduct that she is almost completely blind. I offer to come in and handle her whenever I can, and they agree that would be a good idea. I'd like to add that store policy restricts employees from handling animals outside of selling and feeding, which they hate as much as I do. After handling her and her sister for a while, I stood near the checkout chatting to the staff member on duty. We'll call him Jay, for a while. And this time, maybe 5 minutes, there was a woman, we'll call her Karen, with a boy who was maybe 6, who started scoffing at us. I was wearing black jeans and a Rick and Morty print tee. Don't judge me, it was cheap. And the staff uniform is black cargo pants and a bright colored polo, usually green or blue for all staff members. Jay and I share a glance that says, "Here we go." Jay, in the best customer service voice I've heard. "Hi, how can I help you today?" Karen, "My son wants a rabbit. He can't go and see them. Move the barricade so he can pick one." Jay, "I'm sorry, but I'll have to ask you to wait for my colleague to come back from her break so she can help you." Karen scoffs, "You can help us, can't you?" Jay, "I apologize, but someone has to be on the register at all time. I can't leave. My colleague will be back in a minute to help you." Karen, gesturing to me, "Well, why can't she help me?" Me, "Oh, I'm sorry. Don't talk back to me. I saw you in there alone, so you can help us." Jay, "Ma'am, she doesn't work here." "Then why can she go in and I can't?" Jay, "She's a trusted customer who knows how to handle our rats. She was simply looking in on them as one of them seems to be blind. She confirmed that for us." "This is disgusting. Why are you allowing one customer in but not me? My poor baby just wants a rabbit to play with. Is that too hard for you to understand?" Jay, "As I said, my colleague will be back to help you. Feel free to look in from the barrier." Karen, looking at me, "You obviously work here. Why else would you be talking to the staff? Now move the barrier so my son can look at the bunnies." Me, "Seriously, I don't work here. I was just checking the rats." Karen, "Then fine. Check the rabbits so my son can pick one." Me, "I can't do that. It's not my job and I know nothing about them." "I want to see you fired, refusing to help a customer. This is unacceptable." About now is when the other employee, we'll call her Tara, comes out. She was wearing a different color than Jay. Tara, "Is everything okay here, Jay?" Karen, "Are you the manager? I want this girl fired. She refused to help me." Tara, "She doesn't work here, miss. Is there something I can help you with?" Karen, "My son wants to buy a rabbit, but this girl refused to help. What kind of store is this anyway?" I gesture bye to Tara and Jay while she is on her rant and start heading to the door. Karen, "Where do you think you're going? I want to see you get fired. Your attitude towards me was very rude." Tara looks at me and we both sigh. Tara, "OP, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to let you go. We don't tolerate rude behavior toward our customers." Me, realizing this is the only way it'll be sorted. "What? No, I love working here." Tara, "I'm sorry, but this was unacceptable. You have been a good employee until now. Thank you for working for us." I pretend to look sad and walk out. After a couple of days later, I went back in and Jay was on the tills again. I asked him what happened after I left, and he told me that she was unimpressed with how we treated her, so she will find somewhere else to get her son a rabbit. The store holds the right to decide if someone can purchase an animal, and I doubt they would have let her anyway. Speaking of pets, do you guys have any pets? And if so, what kind? Please let us know.
I have a poodle, and she means everything to me.
Can we have 35 sandwiches to go for our meeting in 30 minutes? This happened almost 2 years ago when I worked at Evil Bookstore Corporation in their cafe that proudly serves Siren coffee, but not their food. For the millionth time, no, we do not sell cake pops. Unlike a normal Siren coffee store, our food came from another vendor famous for cheesecakes, meaning our offerings were a lot different, and so was our stock. I'm not sure how other locations did it, but we kept a stock of about 5 thawed sandwiches of each type of sandwich available, so about 25 were at finger's length at any time. Our sandwiches sometimes sold, but we did have to toss at least 1 or 2 every night. The sandwiches honestly messed up the flow of the cafe, as they took about 3 minutes to cook, while most of the other food was just taking it out of the pastry case and putting it on the plate. You had to almost guard the oven to make sure they didn't burn if left in for a few seconds longer than the timer went off, so you couldn't do other time-necessary tasks like steaming milk or intensive processes like making blended ice cream beverages. It was a summer day, fairly busy, but getting towards the later part of the evening, about 2 or 3 hours to close. The other cafe worker was on their 30-minute lunch when 2 fairly young adults walked up. The conversation went something like this. Me. Hi, what can I get started for you? Them. You have sandwiches, right? Me. We do. Lists options. Them. Okay, awesome. Could we have 7 of each? We have a church meeting in 30 minutes. Me. Flabbergasted. Well, we have about 25 sandwiches available. They take 3 minutes each, and I can only do 1 at a time because we only have 1 oven. Them. Oh, I mean, we'll take the 25 then. Me, mentally calculating. It will take about 75 minutes for me to do all of them, and your meeting is in 30 minutes. They stepped aside to talk about it. I'm panicking inside because there is no way I could make all these sandwiches and serve other customers. While they were debating, I had to make 5 blended ice cream beverages and a snack. Down to 24 now. Coworkers is nowhere in sight. I am drowning. The line is growing. I am in the pastry case when they lean over and ask me where to get sandwiches if they can't get them here. Me, frazzled. Internally I am screaming, thinking they could have planned this in advance. Also, I am covered in whipped cream. This is not the time. They stepped away again and were calling one of the stores, I think. My line cleared up and they came back and asked again, saying, "Are you sure you can't?" I told them, "Yes, I am very sure. I am so sorry." They left. The next day, I told the cafe manager, a very evil man, the story, thinking he'd also find it preposterous, but instead, I got scolded because we could have used the profits. I rebutted, saying, "Okay, who was going to serve the other customers then while Coworker was on break and I'm stuck making 25 sandwiches?" He had nothing to say. Speaking of sandwiches, what is your favorite sandwich of all time? Please let us know.
Sweet onion chicken teriyaki at Subway for the win.
Enjoy your hand sanitizer. So I have this friend, sorta. Let's call her Karen, even though she's the same age as me, a teenager. When we were younger, I caught her a few times having stolen stuff from me and her friends, and was generally a stealing, lying jerk. But we sometimes got along, and our relationship is complicated, and she thinks we are fantastic friends, so I don't tell her otherwise. She also set me up with my current girlfriend, but that's a different story. I also have a really good peripheral vision, and people often get mad when I could see them do stuff out of the corner of my eye that they thought I couldn't. So I went shopping with my friends late last year, and my friend, not Karen, drags me into a certain shop for body products. As it was one of the last shops we could go to, and I still had a decent amount of money left, I bought a lip balm and 2 small, scented, expensive as heck, bottles of hand sanitizer. I never used them, so the size of them didn't bother me. It was just for random occasions when I needed them, or wanted my hands to smell nice. I got home, put them on my desk, and used them about 3 times the rest of the year. Then, in about March, Karen came over and asked,
Hey, can I have one of these bottles of hand sanitizer?
And I tell her, no. I bought them myself, and they are very expensive. She looks at me, fake smiling, and says,
Oh, okay then.
And I swear, I can see her grab one off the desk very obviously as soon as I turn back to my PC. Without looking at her, I say, "Put that bottle back." I said no. Karen is surprised and quickly puts it back, looking at me innocently, saying,
What do you mean?
At this point, I look up and say, "You know I have good vision. Don't try and take my stuff when I've told you no." Then reached over and put the bottle in my desk drawer and go back to what I was doing. The next day she comes over again and her mom is with her. The mother starts getting mad at me, saying Karen told her I stole her hand sanitizer and that I locked it in my desk. I told her I don't have a lock on my desk and that I bought that hand sanitizer last year. She was still mad and shouting at me to give back the hand sanitizer. No one else was home as my family were all shopping or at school. I go to online school and Karen is homeschooled, so no one could back me up or save me from her. I finally get fed up, go inside and grab one of the bottles of the hand sanitizer and an old lotion tube I never threw away because I'm messy. I screw off the cap of the lotion lid and squeeze the sanitizer into the bottle, sealing it back up and putting it in my desk. I put the bottle in my pocket and walk back to the door. This'll just take a moment. I forgot I put it in the kitchen. She nods, still mad, and Karen is smiling in success as I walk off again. I reach the kitchen and grab a bottle of ketchup, mixing it with chunky aloe vera gel, and awkwardly shoving it into the hand sanitizer bottle. This makes a sort of translucent pink gel that looks like strawberry hand sanitizer. As that was the scent for this one, the smell of the original hand sanitizer is very strong, and it overpowers the ketchup, making it seem convincing. I come back and hand her the tiny bottle of ketchup and aloe vera, looking directly at Karen and saying, "I'm so sorry I stole. I don't know what came over me." They both look smug and turn to leave. Her parents saying,
She won't be returning again. I don't want you stealing more of her stuff.
and
You're lucky we don't press charges on you because you're a kid.
I put on a sad face and say, "That's a shame," before slamming the door in her stuck-up face. I hope she enjoys her hand sanitizer. Would you be friends with someone who stole from you? And why or why not? Please let us know.
There's nothing wrong with stealing if you get something good out of it.
Karen thinks her son deserves honors placement regardless of his grades. I worked in a pretty affluent school district for 14 years and met a lot of entitled parents. These two from my first year of teaching never left my mind though. Obviously, dialogue is not really accurate. As an 8th grade English teacher, it was my job to recommend either Honors English, Level 1 English, or Level 2 English for my students' 9th grade year. Personally, I hated this. I want kids to work to the best of their abilities and not make them feel inferior when they just might not be mentally mature enough for a higher placement yet. Math and science also had to make similar recommendations. To clarify, Level 1 was a normal, rigorous class, probably comparable to the class I was currently teaching. Level 2 was for kids who really struggled with reading and writing. Honors was very intense. Students would write numerous papers that might not even get graded. They would have multiple chapters to read independently each night, frequent tests and quizzes, and no grammar instruction because they should already have mastered it at this point. It was probably appropriate for maybe 20% of my students at most. Math and science were tracked in the same way. Parents never liked this either. Multiple complaints every year, but parents could choose to waive their kids into whichever level they decided. Pretty much never went well. So many kids who would waive into honors would fail quarter 1 and need to drop a level before the end of the semester. On the other hand, if they dominated in level 1, their current teacher could suggest moving them up. These two entitled parents asked for a meeting with me, the math teacher and science teacher. When they joined us in the room we were meeting in, they were absolutely simmering with rage. Their son had not been recommended for any honors classes, and that was not okay. Basically, we explained, kiddo did a good job, did his homework, got solid B's and some A's, did what he was asked. No more, no less. He fit the description of a level 1. Entitled Dad.
Either you are all wrong, or this school has failed our son. He came in with straight A's in elementary school. You obviously didn't teach him well enough, or you placed him incorrectly.
Entitled Mom.
My husband and I graduated from Ivy League schools. Our other 2 kids are in Ivy League schools.
Us. Okay, but we aren't placing them or you. We're placing this kiddo. And pretty much, if you do your work in our elementary schools, you get an A. Entitled Dad.
Well then, you need to give him more time to do better. He obviously wasn't trying.
Us. Honors kids don't need to be warned to try. They just try and succeed because they are really advanced in these areas.
How will he get into a good college if he is at level 1?
Every year, almost all of the senior class goes on to college. Some fantastic colleges too. Plus, if he does well, he can go up a level.
Then put him in honors, and if he does badly, he can move down.
Us. That can be really tough on a kid. To be in a class with others and then have to leave because you can't achieve what they can? Also, the class has to slow down to try to help any kid who isn't grasping the material, and now the whole class is behind. It's much better for a kid's self-esteem to do so well they move up. Also, remember, you can wave him in. Entitled Mom.
We don't want to wave him in. We want you to recommend him.
Entitled Dad.
All of our friends' kids are in honors. How would it look if we had to wave ours in?
Ding, ding, ding. There it is. They can't hold their heads high in the country club if their son is just normal. We ended up saying if he made a drastic improvement by the end of the year, we would reconsider. By the way, he didn't. Even with some incredible papers written at home for my class, weird how he couldn't write as well in class. Parents waved him in. He did horrible in all 3 and ended up back in level 1 for all except science. Ended up passing science by the skin of his teeth. Honestly, my heart goes out to him. That's really difficult, especially if your parents are comparing your success to theirs, your siblings, and your neighbors. Delivery driver gets his karma twice. I was driving down a small country road with a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit that some choose to ignore. And coming up behind me was a standard work truck. I won't name names, but it was a popular automotive parts store delivery truck and got right on my bumper. I'm not in a tiny car, but it's a sedan, and he was so close that all I saw was grille and hood in my mirrors. While I stayed doing the speed limit, after about 3 minutes, he decided that a sharp curve was the perfect time to pass me, and surprise, surprise, there was a car coming after the curve. He swerved at me, and I slammed the brakes, nearly missing his bumper. Thankfully, I had this all on dash cam, front and back. I got home and got the footage on my laptop and called their 1-800 number with his plate number and his truck number. The woman I spoke to was super apologetic, and she asked me to send her the video. She watched it while on the line with me and immediately asked if she could put me on hold. I said yes, and a few minutes go by and she comes back and brings me someone else on the line, the local store manager of that driver. She had sent him the video, and the manager apologized a ton and promised me right then and there that employee was terminated for their behavior. A few weeks go by, and I don't hear anything till a friend of mine on Facebook sends me a link. The driver that was fired managed to get my name from his HR or manager or something and was trying to find me in real life because he lost his job and made a video wearing his work uniform threatening me because of everything. I went to my local police station about it and showed them the video and explained everything and was told I needed to speak to that company again because they let my name get out. I called them and told them everything going on, and I was told I'd get a call from their HR department within 2 to 3 business days. Literally 6 hours later, I received a call from some higher-up HR person with one of their legal team on the phone. They wanted me to sign a document stating I won't publicly go after them or give negative PR if they sue him for me and get a restraining order and everything on this guy for what he threatened. They even offered to have a lawyer of my choosing go over it with me at no cost to me and sign it and have them handle it. Another few more weeks go by, and that friend on Facebook, he knows that guy's family or something, said that the dude's mom posted some sob story that her son is going through some expensive court case that he likely won't win because the other team is over 10 lawyers. So not only lost his job, but then tried to find me only to have his ex-employer sue him. Next we've got, entitled parent calls my dad a liar because he doesn't look disabled. For some reason, it's almost like my dad and I are entitled parent magnets. When we're together, we usually have some sort of encounter. They're pretty minor most of the time, but occasionally they are absolute horror shows. This is one of those times. Cast. We've got Bug. That's me, your idiotic narrator. We've got Dad, the big guy I happen to share genes with. We've got entitled Dad, Very angry and very overweight man in a minivan. We've got entitled Mom, the minivan man's wife. She was kinda okay. We've got kids 1 and 2. 2 very annoying kids, probably about 2 to 3 years younger than me. My dad and I haven't always gotten along, so while I was on leave, we tried to hang out as much as possible. So mostly that was us running to the store for groceries and other little things. This encounter happened in a Walmart parking lot, so I am not surprised by the lack of brain cells from the entire entitled family we met. A little backstory might help, so here it is. My dad is a veteran, 100% disabled due to his time overseas, and as a paratrooper when he was younger. This means he is able to park in handicap spots. He does this occasionally when his knees are giving him more issues than their normal pain. Today is one such day. Now a little more about my dad. Dude does not look like he is any sort of disabled. Even though he's pushing 50, he still works out as much as his body will allow him to. Man is still built like a gorilla and looks like he's still an infantryman. But anyway, on to the story. My mom asked my dad and I to head over to the store to pick up some food for dinner. Honestly, we ended up grabbing more snacks than anything, but we got what Mom had asked for. As we were checking out, we heard the voice of God. Not really. It was the intercom asking for the owner of the gray Ford F-150 parked in the handicap spot to please come to customer service. Dad: "Oh man, if someone stole my truck, I'm gonna cry." Me: "Someone probably just doesn't realize that having DV on your license plate means you are a disabled vet. Bet you 20 that's what it is." Him and I finished checking out and headed over to where we were summoned and looked for whoever called for us. The first thing we noticed was the absolute whale of a man, his 2 kids, and his wife standing there. I kid you not. The man's face was beet red, and you probably could have fried an egg on it. Also, to be fair, calling the guy a whale is an overstatement. He probably was only 250 to 275, but that's still fairly heavy. But this is coming from a 150-pound stick bug, so what do I know? Entitled Dad:
Is that your truck? Why the heck did you take up a handicap spot if you're obviously not?
Entitled Mom. Her voice actually would have been pleasant if she wasn't so angry.
My husband has very serious hip issues, and he had to walk from the back of the parking lot to the front of the store because of your rudeness.
Dad: "Sir, ma'am, I can park there. I'm a disabled vet." Entitled Dad:
BS. If you're so disabled, you shouldn't be able to maintain your body like that.
Me: "Sir, he was injured overseas. Some days it's worse than others, and today his knees keep locking up." My dad then lifted his pants leg to show them his knee braces, which honestly looks like some futuristic exoskeleton make you run fast and jump far kind of thing. The woman immediately looked embarrassed and apologized, something I wish her husband had done. Entitled Dad:
I don't give a crap. I had to risk messing up my hip even more because your sensitive little dad's knees hurt, kid. I have actual pain.
Entitled Mom:
Sir, please forgive my husband. He's just angry right now.
Entitled Dad:
Shut up, entitled Mom. Let me handle it. Dang it.
My dad and I honestly just wanted to buzz off at that point, so we turned around to walk away when I felt a hand on my shoulder. Kid 1:
Hey, kid, apologize to my dad before you leave, jerk.
Now most stories would be like, "This kid didn't realize I was a black belt in every form of hand-to-hand combat," but I'm a realist and don't enjoy fighting very much. Me: "Bro, I don't have to apologize for crap, so let me go." Kid 1:
No, jerk. My dad could have hurt his hip from walking because of you two. Apologize.
Me: "I don't think I want to." At that point, I was mad from this kid having his grimy high school hand on my shoulder, so I yanked his hand off of me and started to walk away.
Hey, forget you, kid.
My dad and I just walked away and got into the truck. When we shut our doors, we both burst out laughing because of the entitled dad's idiocy and his kid's rudeness. Dad: "Hey man, I'm proud of you for not starting a fight or anything. Thanks for standing up for me too, but I had it." Me: "I was standing up for you? Nah man, I was just making sure he didn't realize you were disabled, so I won the bet." Dad: "Never mind, you're a jerk." Me: "Yeah, I get it from my dad." And that's it. No big scene or climax or anything. Nobody got arrested. We just went home and made some enchiladas and had a few bowls of ice cream afterwards. Hey Karen, can you read us our new review we just got on iTunes?
Mr. Red Sox 93 says, I really love these stories on here, and on the greatest Karen storyteller of all time, a salute to you, Mr. Reddit.
Thanks, Red Sox. We hope you continue to enjoy the Mr. Reddit podcast, available on Spotify and iTunes. Your guinea pig looks sad and scared, so I'm taking him with me. Just like the title says, an entitled jerk tried to take my guinea pig because she thinks that it looks scared and sad. Now, before I go into detail, I wonder why a small animal would be scared of a loud, drunk, and obnoxious idiot barging into my home. So, currently 11 p.m. at the time of this post, and it's hot as heck here in the UK. I'm just about to try to go to sleep. But lo and behold, a drunk, idiotic, obnoxious, brain-dead moron comes barging into my home and starts talking crap about me and my dad and my younger brothers. For those who catch on quickly, I'm indeed talking about my mom, who I've blacklisted out of my life, who thinks the world revolves around her and has a hissy fit whenever someone proves her wrong. She starts sobbing and crying, saying,
Lunatic, nobody loves me. Why does nobody love me?
To which I explain to her, you're a drunk, you're cruel and vindictive, you talk crap about your own kids, and then start to wonder why nobody in your family loves you. She tries to BS her way out of it, saying,
Oh, I don't mean it. I only say those things when I'm drunk.
She doesn't. So as I'm tired, ticked off, and done with her, I tell her she can either get out on her own or I'll call the cops to get her out. She reluctantly does so, but when she walks past my living room and sees my guinea pig curled up next to a frozen water bottle, she goes,
Oh, look at your little baby. He looks so sad.
At this point, I walk to the door and order her out, much more aggressive, to try and get it through to her head that she needs to leave. When she walks up, she goes,
Fine, I'll leave, but I'm taking your guinea pig with me. It looks sad and scared.
To which I grab the guinea pig out of her hands and shove her out, locking the door behind me, with her going,
How dare you! I'm your mother. I demand you give me your guinea pig so I can look after him.
She's still screaming her head off, whilst I'm now stuck wide awake in this dreadful heat, calming and soothing my guinea pig, and she wonders why I want to get a restraining order against her. Speaking of guinea pigs, have any of you ever had a guinea pig, or how about a hamster? Please let us know.
I'll stick with my poodle, thank you very much.
Am I the jerk for not wanting to meet my granddaughter? I had my daughter when I was very young and things didn't work out with her mother. I had visitation rights, and that was pretty much it, as I was dragged through the court system by her mother and bled dry. I made sure to pay child support, and even though I had evidence that none of it was ever used properly, social media posts, and my daughter always needing things, I didn't contest anything. Whenever my daughter contacted me for something, I helped her out. As she grew up, however, I saw her slowly turn into her mother. Her demands for money became more desperate, and every month she was in some sort of financial trouble. Things didn't improve when she turned 18. I offered to pay for her university, but it turned out she never even got accepted and had faked everything to get money off me. During this time, I got married and had 2 kids, but I still tried to support my daughter. I learned my lesson and stopped giving her money directly and offered to pay for things directly. She wasn't happy with this. She'd cut off contact with me every time I refused to give her money, only to pop up after a few months for a new request for money. The breaking point came when she was pregnant and needed a guarantor to rent a place for her, her partner, and the new baby. I happily accepted and helped with the first few months' rent. This turned into the landlord contacting me every month as they hadn't paid any rent. My granddaughter was born and I wasn't allowed to see her. When I turned up to the flat unannounced, she called the cops on me. In the end, I realized I was just seen as a cash machine and decided to sever ties and not hurt myself anymore. I sent her an email and a letter to know that I was done, that I'd pay the rent for another 6 months, and that would be it. I also forwarded her resources from the local council so that she'd be able to get a council flat. 6 months went by with no contact. I was then contacted by the landlord as they had trashed the flat before leaving, causing me to pay for the repairs. From the very little contact I have with her mother, I know she managed to secure a council house and isn't homeless. Since then, she's contacted me for money and I've ignored it. Now, however, she's using my granddaughter as leverage.
I need money. Your granddaughter needs money. If you ever want to see her, you need to give me money.
My granddaughter is 18 months old, and I have never seen her. My heart hurts too much, and I can't keep being used like this. Her mother already has enough terrible things to say about me, but now my wife is saying I'm punishing the child for nothing. What would you do if you were in this situation? Would you keep giving her money, or would you cut her off completely? Please let us know.
She deserves that money.
Trick me and claim my work for yourself? Watch it backfire. Cast. We've got Sam, my big brother. We've got Lazy. We've got Slackers. We've got the boss. We've got the big boss. We've got VP and me. Small background. My brother was working at an at-will employer in charge of making small commercials for local and very rarely state companies and businesses. Think of a small airplane hangar with 60-ish employees and a studio apartment for the higher-ups. The setup. My brother was a gopher for his lazy manager and his 4 slacker employees. His usual job was all of their work while they were out of the office going to bars and clubs. My brother was told that they were going to important business meetings during all of these times. And one day he got a text from our mom and dad that said, with pictures, "Hey, we found your manager and coworkers at a club." When he got this text, he checked the company work records and saw that they had all taken credit for his work and left his name out of it. The boss came down to his section of the office and told him that he was being reprimanded for not doing any work for the past month. He was told in an email that he was on an unpaid suspension for the next month, with the big boss and VP CC'd in the email. Cue the malicious compliance. My brother and his team were to oversee a multi-million, $3 million or so, dollar contract commercial for a company that was to be in the Super Bowl 2016. Can you see where this is going? My brother, knowing that he was going to be blamed for the fallout, put in his immediate resignation 2 weeks after his suspension. On week 4, I'm with my brother in the car eating Sonic, and he gets a phone call from his frantic boss asking where he is. My brother said, "I'm in my car next to my little brother eating at Sonic." He started to shout at him to get back to the office when my brother chimed in with, "If I'm so useless at work, I'm sure Lazy and Slackers can do it all right. It's not like they're currently at the local club every time they say that they're going to a business meeting, right? And I put in my resignation 2 weeks ago, remember?" There was a good 10-second pause in the call. If you want to talk to him about it, go to the club and ask him yourself. My brother gets a 4-way call the next day from the boss, big boss, and VP, all apologizing and asking him to get back to work immediately, to which he responded with, "As I've told my boss and big boss, I put my immediate resignation in 2 weeks ago with big boss's signature in it." VP said, "I wasn't aware of this." My brother continues, "Since I haven't done anything in the past month, I'm sure Lazy and the Slackers can do it, all right?" It was then they realized they had done themselves over a false report from Lazy. A month later, he gets a call from an ex-coworker saying that the big company sued the company into bankruptcy and let go of everyone. Lazy and the Slackers were fired only 2 days after the 4-way call. Karma is a jerk. Have you ever had coworkers take credit for something you did? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know.
If I had a job, that's exactly what I'd do.
Secure it, but leave the keys in it. Roger that, LT. This happened back in my army days, on deployment to Afghanistan. I was an E4, despite being in for around 7 years at this point, because I decided to self-medicate for a while before seeking help for PTSD, and was a bit of a fixture in my unit after spending my entire army career in this unit. Despite my mistakes, I was well liked by most of my unit, and especially my CO, company commander, and first sergeant, the enlisted counterpart to the company commander. I was what the Army calls a deployment soldier, someone who you love to have in your unit while deployed, but gets a bit, let's say, distracted, and has a tendency to get in a bit of trouble when back in garrison, or the US, for too long. I was known for being sarcastic, a jokester, and hardworking when it mattered, but tended to be the typical long-term E4 when it came to BS duties in garrison. Also important to the story, I was also known for rarely being seen without my best friend, Jay, who I went to basic with and was lucky enough to be in the same unit my entire career. And if we were left without supervision for too long, well, leadership knew not to let that happen. Consequences could range from the time the entirety of the barracks living members of the company missed PT the day after St. Patrick's Day due to the 3-story beer pong monstrosity we created to, well, this story. I had recently been switched to operations. Basically, they put me behind a desk to be the armorer guy that makes the pew-pews go pew again when they stop pewing. From the front line, despite having no training and definitely not the best person for the job. This led to me being the lone person on the night shift, as troops tend to take very good care of their weapons when downrange, and if something does break, it usually has to go to the battalion armorers, the guys that were actually trained to fix them. So honestly, there wasn't much for me to do. I won't get into all my duties, but it wasn't much, it wasn't hard, and I was bored. Cute side note, the best nights were when the mine dog assigned to us couldn't sleep and came to the TOC, Tactical Operations Center, and I got to play with her most of the night. Back to the story. Before I was switched, Jay was in the lead vehicle which hit an IED. He was medevaced out on a chopper, but luckily himself and 2 others were concussed and beaten up, but otherwise okay. Rest in peace to the driver, sadly. He was only 19 and was placed on life support, but it was removed at the request of his parents less than 24 hours later. Anyway, Jay came back to the unit, but leadership was wary of sending him back on mission too soon, and he was placed on night shift with me. To this day, even the CO and his PL, platoon leader, usually a second lieutenant, aka Butterbar, can't explain why they thought putting he and I together on night shift, unsupervised, for 12 hours a night was a good idea. With both of us being well liked and in our specific company for longer than anyone else there, we got pretty brave, and there were quite a few antics and pranks pulled on the company leadership, most of which were tolerated and laughed about, and I can go into detail later if anyone is interested. This antic, however, was not loved by the officers, not at all. While deployed, military cooks serve midnight chow, which is exactly what it sounds like. Since we were on a larger base this time around, our unit was issued a Gator. Think electric golf cart, except where the rear seat and club holders would be, there's a small dump truck bed. We would use this to drive to pick up midnight chow and drive back, and sometimes other members of the unit would use it for work or just to avoid taking the buses on base. Well, one particular morning, a group of lower enlisted took it to the gym and stayed longer than usual, and when the officers woke up, they wanted to go get breakfast, only to find they had to use the bus because the Gator was gone. Jay and I were berated and told that we weren't supposed to let anyone below a platoon sergeant rank use the Gator. First, we had heard of this rule, but whatever. This happens all the time in the Army. Adjust and move on. Since we were ops, we were still allowed Gator use, so we didn't care. That is, until one morning I left shift with the Gator keys still in my pocket, and they couldn't find them or use the Gator until I showed up for my next shift. Thus ends the Gator use for anyone but the first sergeant, who never used it anyway, and company commander, and the XO, second in command to the company commander on the officer side, usually a first lieutenant, but in this case a Butterbar. Our exact orders were, the keys stay in the Gator, and no one uses it without our permission. I was told off pretty harshly by the XO. Usually you can get away with a bit of argument with the Butterbar, the good ones anyway, after you've been in the military for a while, and this XO really was a good one. I guess he was just having a bad day or something, I don't know, but I knew better than to press my luck and argue. There's more than one way to break in a new LT after all. So now we finally come to the malicious compliance. Jay and I were fairly annoyed with the XO's actions, and since we had nothing better to do that night, and I sure as heck wasn't gonna let him think his rank allows him to not give people decent human respect, we spent the first few hours thinking of how to teach him a lesson. Knowing that CO had left to the brigade headquarters earlier that day, we came to the conclusion that since we couldn't bring the key inside anymore, but still needed to secure the Gator, we'd need to get creative. That night, we decided that since we had to be inside and couldn't have eyes on it, we'd need to hide it, or at least place it out of reach. Outside on a smoke break, we saw the connexes, or railroad containers for civilian speak. They were stacked too high, with empties on top and extra supplies on bottom. We looked at each other and immediately knew what to do. We took turns building a makeshift ramp that night and slowly eased the Gator up to the top of one of the stacks, turned it off, left the keys in it, and disassembled the ramp. Luckily, we left before the XO woke up, and the first sergeant didn't notice it was missing since he never used it. Getting back that night, we were a bit nervous, But when we walked in, the first sergeant tried hard to hide a smile. We knew we were in the clear then. Sure enough, the XO comes to us with a red face. XO.
What the heck was that?
Us. What was what, sir?
Don't give me that crap. The Gator.
Us. Well, sir, you said we had to keep the Gator secure from anyone without your permission, but we have to stay inside and couldn't see it. Since we had to leave the keys in it as well and didn't have any guidance, we thought the best thing would be to put it where no one can reach it. This is the point where First Sergeant breaks down laughing and the XO knows nothing will happen to us. So he says,
Okay, that was good. You had your fun, but don't put it up there again.
Us. Roger, sir. We later found out they used a crane from the contractors to get it down. Probably for the best, no one got hurt that way. Still under the same orders, with one caveat, and inspired by the crane usage, that night I took a trip to the contractors and, after explaining the situation to them, they happily agreed to use the crane to move a barrier from our mortar bunker out of the way long enough for us to fit the Gator in, then replaced it. There was physically no way to get it out without a crane. Things happened much the same that night, except this time we had new orders that we were not to hide the Gator at all. The first sergeant stayed behind that night for a few smokes with Jay and I, laughing but telling us he can't protect us forever, but he was interested in seeing how it all plays out, so he wouldn't stop us from continuing, but tread carefully. We thanked him and quickly came up with our new plan, but this time we waited until about 3 a.m., thinking the XO may have a surprise visit. Sure enough, around 1, we saw a red flashlight beam shine on the Gator during a smoke break, and while we can't prove it was the XO, we assume it was. Around 3, we began unscrewing the entire front wall of the TOC, drove the Gator inside, and replaced the wall. That morning, the XO, unexpectedly, arrives with the first sergeant before we were off shift. The first sergeant walks in and laughs so hard he can't breathe. Hearing a loud sigh outside the door, the XO enters, stares at our work, and walks out, head down, without saying a word. This time, the first sergeant made us undo our work since it would interfere with operations, and later that night, the XO told us we had made our point and we even got an apology. After that, anyone could use the Gator as long as it was back by breakfast, and the CO had one heck of a laugh when he returned. Have any of you ever played tricks on your boss? If so, how did they take it? Please let us know.
I'll play a trick on you, Mr. Reddit.
Come on, Karen.
Update. Would I be the jerk for planting prickly bushes in my front yard to keep the neighbors' kids from my property? About a week after my post, I planted a wall of blackberries and raspberries at the two sides of my garden facing the driveway, about 30 centimeters from the edge, so no overhanging branches. On the other side of the berry wall, I planted lots of stuff like strawberries and tomatoes. To reach for the tomatoes and strawberries from the driveway, you either have to go through the fruit bushes or walk up to my house. Walk about 2 meters along the side of the house and my windows, and then walk into my actual garden. Not something you do by mistake. For about 2 weeks, it was somewhat quiet, but I still found the kids on my driveway every single day. As far as I know, they did not enter the garden and I hadn't noticed them walking around my house anymore, so I figured the bushes were working. About 1 week ago, berry season started, and my bushes are now full of raspberries, and there's lots of strawberries as well. The neighbors noticed. First, I caught the boys picking and eating raspberries, so I told them off and dropped them off at home. Told their mom I caught them stealing. That's how I see it, even though it's fruit, and that I'd call the cops next time. She huffed and told me to grow up, but took the boys inside anyway. After that, it was quiet up until yesterday afternoon, when I went out for a while and found the dad and his 2 sons right in the middle of my garden when I returned, clearing my bushes and plants. I didn't even confront them, just called the cops from a distance as they hadn't noticed me yet, and started filming them after making the call. Luckily, 2 cops showed up after 10 minutes or so, and they confronted the neighbor as they were still picking berries. They told them they were trespassing and that the berry picking was in fact considered stealing and that I could press charges. For the first time, I noticed a bit of fear in my neighbor. He was having trouble finding his words and kept looking back at his house, I guess hoping his wife would show up to yell at the cops. They all went inside with the cops, so I just went home as well. After a while, the cops came by and asked me if I wanted to press charges. I asked them if they felt like they scared the neighbors enough to stay away. I got a small smile and yes about him, but the wife had just kept shouting at them and her husband about the little jerk living next door. I told them no for now. Asked them if I'd be allowed to get an extra camera set up on the wall between my garden and the road to cover the entire front garden and driveway. They said that's allowed as long as it's on my side of the wall. So now I'm getting an extra camera installed. One neighbor knows I'm done messing around, but his wife isn't there yet, and if I ever catch any of them again, the cops will be called and possible charges will follow. What would you do if your neighbors kept stealing from your garden? Please let us know.
It's just a garden. Berries are meant to be eaten.
Sir, I don't think this is you. About 10 years ago, I worked at a chain hardware and home improvement store. Back then, their return policies were pretty straightforward, and return cashiers were allowed to refuse items based on those policies. One such policy was that any return without a receipt and over $25 required a valid governmental-issued identification, license, passport, military ID, etc. So I'm working the returns counter, my favorite assignment because I was allowed to actually not take crap from customers. This customer comes in for a return and drops about $150 of rechargeable lithium batteries on my desk. I ask him for his receipt. He doesn't have it. I inform him of the policy requiring ID, and he says he left it in the car. He'll be right back. Now, these batteries were a high theft item, and usually in those scenarios, they would say they'd be back, leave the items on my desk, and never come back. In this case, he did come back about 35 minutes later with an ID. I take it from him and try to not start laughing while inspecting if it's real. The following conversation occurs. Me: Sir, is this your ID? Him: Yeah, I just renewed it a week ago. The date does show it was issued a week ago. Me: So your name is blank? Him: Yes. Gives me full, including middle name. Me: Can you verify the address? He does. Me: Okay, sir, I have to give you this back because I don't think this is you, and I can't do your return. Him: Before I hand the ID back. Why not? I swear, that's me. Me: Sir, the ID states that you're a 200-pound, 6'1" black man. Him: And? Me, looking at him and trying to understand how that didn't click for him. Well, you're a 5'7"-ish, about 135-pound white dude. We stare at each other for a moment. He slowly takes his ID and leaves. I called a manager to mark the batteries as a recovery, and we had about 25 packs stolen the week before, and have a laugh about it. Note: my state, I don't remember if others do, lists your height, age, eye color, and weight on your license with your picture. Customers can't read signs, or they can, but choose to ignore it. Recently, my work, clothing store, opened back up. One new rule is that only every second change room is allowed open. This is to enforce social distancing by reducing the amount of people in that area of the store. So people are aware a change room is closed. We have stuck a sign, white laminated paper, at eye level onto the change room's dark gray curtain, which is also left closed. The section I work in has 2 change rooms, so only one is available to use. I went to see if the other customer in the change room needed any help and noticed that there was someone in the other one too, the one that is meant to be closed. I stood next to the curtain and said, "Hi, excuse me, there is a sign saying this change room is closed. I'll need you to exit out of this one and use the one that isn't closed when it becomes available. Thank you." The customer opened the curtain and began picking up her belongings.
Yes, I know. I saw the sign, but the other change room is being used.
I told her that the rules still apply even if the available change room is being used. She'll just have to wait her turn. 5 minutes later, and no, I'm not exaggerating, I caught another customer in the closed change room. I went up to the curtain and repeated what I said to the other lady. The customer opens up the change room and says,
"Oh, sorry, I didn't see the sign."
Again, white sign, dark gray curtain, pinned at eye level. Also, this was in the kids section of my store, so clearly these ladies are setting a good example for their kids. The rules don't apply if you can't be bothered waiting. Edit: Yes, taking down the curtain would solve the problem, but I don't have the authority to do that, as I'm not a manager. Am I the jerk for going back on my promise of making a dress for my sister's wedding reception? This past week, me, 22, and my sister, 27, had a fight. She's getting married this November, and instead of the typical gift, she asked me to make a custom dress for her wedding reception. I work for a seamstress. The woman I work for has her own boutique and does a lot of tailoring work / custom gowns for weddings, proms, and special occasions. I've freelanced with doing costumes for local theater and sometimes to commissions for cosplayers. Overall, I have been sewing for 7 years. My sister knows this, which is why she asked for the reception dress. I've been working with her to get the logistics of the dress down. Style, color, details, etc. All I've gotten a solid yes on is her measurements. Otherwise, she's flip-flopped significantly and/or brushed my questions off, saying, "It's not until November. We have plenty of time." A custom dress takes a lot of time and effort to make, and some materials, depending on what she wants, may have to be ordered or fabric dyed. On top of it all, the dress is free and in between my own projects and actual job. Most recently, when I asked her about the dress, she told me she wanted a quick change dress, aka a dress that rolls down into a different one. She wanted the dress she walked into the reception with to be white, and the dress it changed into to be red to match her theme. At this point, I told her I wasn't doing that kind of dress. Quick change outfits cost a ton more in fabric and are not comfortable to wear, and you usually have to sacrifice details for the ability to change dresses. When I told her this, she got huffy and said doing 2 short and simple dresses was just as easy and cost-effective as doing one big intricate one. Not true. I got really frustrated and told her I wasn't going to spend $500 minimum on a dress she'd wear once when she hadn't even given me the details of exactly what she wanted. I said if she was going to be this unreasonable, she could buy her own reception dress, because I wasn't going to put up with her indecisiveness and craziness. She said I was being crappy for going back on my promise, and she'd already been counting on this dress being free when budgeting. Not my problem, in my opinion. My mom called me up later and said my sister called her crying about me going back on what I'd said and no longer having a reception dress. At this point, I stopped caring, and honestly don't even want to go to the dang wedding anymore. Am I the jerk? What would you do in this situation? Would you still make the dress for her? Please let us know.
She better make that dress. Her sister deserves it.
You couldn't have checked the shelves first? So I work in a retail/discount store that, I'm pretty sure, is specific to the East Coast. We sell the basic stuff. Food, snacks, home decor, makeup, toys, electronics, outdoor stuff. You get the gist. So today I'm over in the home section setting up a new summer display. It should have been set up like a month ago, but because of delayed shipping, we barely have half the stuff that's supposed to be on display. So if you work in retail, you know how annoying it is to have to set up a new display. I'm in the middle of taking down the shelves from the old display and repositioning them to fit the new one. So there I am, sweating like crazy in an 80-degree store with barely any working air conditioning, trying to remove the shelf from the display. I finally get it off and stop to take a breather. Here comes Karen.
Can I bother you for a second, hun?
And before I can bother to give her an answer, she starts explaining that there's an outdoor chandelier in the garden section and she wants it. The problem is, apparently it's the last one and it has no box, as it's obviously the display model. She asks me to check it out and see if I can find the box so she can buy it. I go over and take a look and notice she's not alone. Her husband is with her. I start pretending to look for a box. I know for sure that it doesn't exist and probably got thrown in the baler months ago, but I get the idea that she's not the type of customer who's going to let me go without at least pretending to look for it. But before I get the chance, her husband starts explaining to me that he wants to make sure this model actually works first. It has no batteries, so I call one of my managers, because she's my friend, and ask her to help me out. She goes to find some batteries to check that it works, but not before telling Karen's husband that she believes the reason this model is on display — we don't display every model, just some — is that a customer originally bought it and returned it because one of the lights didn't work. As she's off finding batteries, Karen's husband starts explaining to me that those guys who returned this lied to y'all. There's clear signs of damage, and I can tell they used it for a while before returning it, so that's why one of the lights doesn't work. I let him keep explaining, but I know this isn't true because the signs of wear and tear he was describing were basically invisible, and the rust he pointed out was clearly just a chip in the paint that probably happened during assembly, since it was right next to one of the screws. At this point, the whole ordeal has already taken up about 20 minutes of my time. My manager returns with the batteries, and lo and behold, the light doesn't work, just like every one of us could have predicted. Karen's husband goes to open his mouth and say something, presumably to ask for a discount for the broken light. And then,
"Oh, look, I found them,"
says Karen. Apparently, she turned 45 degrees to the left of the spot she had been standing in for the last 20 minutes and realized that this display model was not the last one we had, as she had earlier exclaimed. In fact, there's an entire shelf of them right next to her the whole dang time. Hey Karen, hit us with those special announcements. Join as a channel member today, and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And huge shout out to Lexi Pink, who left us a review on iTunes saying, "Man, Mr. Reddit, I love listening to your stories, especially the entitled parents ones. Now I can listen to them on the go when my very own, yes, I got my own entitled parents, starts to go off. I simply put my headphones in and I can listen to you while drowning her out. You're great. I love listening to your stories. Thank you so much." Thanks, Lexi. We hope you continue to enjoy the Mr. Reddit podcast, available on Spotify and iTunes. Entitled Mom and Entitled Kid try to steal $200 worth of digital downloads. Cast. We've got me. We've got Awesome Manager. We've got Store Manager. We've got Security Guard. We've got Entitled Mom, Entitled Teen, and Poor Dad. You all wanted the story, and here it is. This was my second year working at Walmart, and it was a slow day. I was browsing the area around electronics, so it was neat when management came around. And when I was by the DVDs, I noticed a few cases hiding behind some products. The DVDs were there and fine, but I saw the digital downloads were gone. This did throw me off a bit, because usually people would just take the whole thing and leave the case. But no, just the downloads. So I placed them in the damaged cart and wrote "missing digital downloads," and plus the packages were open, so we couldn't sell them because the disc could be damaged for all we know. As soon as some of my associates came back, along with Awesome Manager, he asked if anything happened. I told him about the DVDs, and he even got concerned because he also found some in the toys department. Electronics was between the toy department and the shoe department. But as the day goes by, we kept finding more and more. We kept an eye out for any suspicious activity until I saw a teenager, entitled Teen, by one of the new releases on DVD. Awesome Manager also saw this and called in one of the security guards to keep an eye on the teen. And that's when we can hear someone opening and closing a DVD case. Awesome Manager immediately took action and walked up to her. Awesome Manager: "Miss, may I ask what you're doing?" Entitled Teen: "I'm just browsing for something for my little brother." She was rolling her eyes at him. Awesome Manager noticed something small in her hand and one of the DVDs shoved into the back of the shelf with the case open. Awesome Manager: "I can't have you opening the DVDs." Entitled Teen: "Well, how do I know you're not going to sell empty cases?" She was getting hostile very quickly. Manager: "I get that, miss, but you're still not allowed to do that." Entitled Teen was getting very defensive until the security guard was on site, and that's when I saw a woman coming down the aisle to stand by her. And that's when I knew it was the entitled mother.
Is there something wrong, sweetie?
Entitled Teen: "Yes, he's accusing me of stealing." Awesome Manager: "Miss, me and my associates—"
My daughter would never steal. How dare you accuse her of that?
I was worried for Awesome Manager because he was a retired veteran. Can't remember if it was Navy or National Guard, and he was prone to use his veteran voice if someone pushes him too far. I was almost on the receiving end of it at one time, but he held it back. Awesome Manager: "Ma'am, I can see the downloads from the DVD in your daughter's hand." Entitled Mom and Entitled Teen were yelling at him at this point, and that brought the store manager over because he could hear the yelling from the shoe department. Store Manager: "OP, is something going on? I can hear yelling all the way from the shoe department." Me: "We've been finding open DVD products with the digital downloads missing, and Awesome Manager found the culprit." She nods at me and walks over to Awesome Manager, Entitled Teen, and Entitled Mom. Store Manager: "Awesome Manager, is everything all right?" Entitled Mom:
Your manager is accusing my daughter of stealing, and I will not tolerate it. I demand him to be fired and be compensated for the stress he's put us through."
As Store Manager was going to ask Awesome Manager, Entitled Teen opened her jacket a bit, and tons of the digital downloads fell out from the inside of her jacket. I was even shocked as we all witnessed what was going on. Security guard was close by and looks at Store Manager to give the signal, which was given immediately. But security guard has to call for backup because Entitled Teen tried to run for it. Security guard caught up with her, but Entitled Mom was now trying to get the guard to let her go. Luckily, another security guard showed up and got her too. We had to empty the jacket Entitled Teen had, and she had over $200 worth of DVD digital downloads that were taken from their cases. We couldn't sell the DVDs, so they were put in for damages. Awesome Manager had to call the police, and the cops had to take them away, and they were banned from other Walmarts as well. Even Awesome Manager was wondering why bother taking the digital downloads instead of the whole thing? I told him that it could be a scam she was doing by selling the digitals at a high price and rips the people that buy them off by downloading the digital so that they couldn't use it. Someone does this with our games and sells them at GameStop. He thought I had a good point and just shrugged it off. Me, I was afraid you were going to go flippy on them. Awesome Manager just laughed and said he handled worse and told me to keep it up. Baby of electronics. We all had nicknames, and I was dubbed that because I was the youngest member there, and props to those that got the flippy reference. As the day went by, I saw a man walk up to the counter and I asked how I could help him. Poor dad. Hello, I'm the father of Entitled Teen and Entitled Mom's husband. I just want to apologize for what they did. Me. It's okay, sir. They should have known better, and it is what it is. Turns out he was divorcing Entitled Mom and trying to get custody of Entitled Teen because Entitled Mom was a toxic lady. But he couldn't get custody due to his finances and was trying to find a better job. Poor dad tried to offer to buy the DVDs his daughter took the digitals from, and I told him I couldn't do that. Poor dad kept insisting, but I told him I would get in trouble, and he lets it be. I haven't seen poor dad since I've worked there, so I hope he's doing good and got custody of the daughter. Edit. I'm getting messages about Awesome Manager's action. The store manager did talk to him about what he did and was told not to accuse customers of stealing again. He was hired a few weeks before the incident happened because he worked at a bad retail store that the managers didn't do anything and let customers always win, despite the situation. What would you do if you saw someone stealing from the store you worked at? Would you confront them or just let someone else know? Please let us know.
They should have minded their own business.
Am I the jerk for refusing to give my parents money? I'm a 19-year-old female with 6 older siblings. My parents spent most of my childhood spending money they didn't have on my siblings, so by the time I hit my teenage years, I realized I was probably going to have to fend for myself financially when I turned 18. I started babysitting and doing odd jobs around my neighborhood when I was 14, and eventually got part-time jobs during the school year. By the time I was 16, I was working 3 jobs in the summer and 2 in addition to school. When my parents told me they couldn't pay for college, I'd already earned enough, along with scholarships, to be able to put myself through college and have plenty left over. I've continued to work during the school year and have been able to make money currently by tutoring online. The issue began a few months ago when my eldest sister, 29, got married. My parents spent 30 grand on her wedding, taking out a second mortgage to do so. To make matters worse, my dad was furloughed 6 days after the wedding. They'd effectively dug themselves into a hole they couldn't get out of. 2 weeks ago, my mom texted me for the first time since the wedding. She didn't say hi, ask how I was, or make any small talk. She just said, "Your dad and I need a favor. When can we call you?" I'd expected this. None of my elder siblings are doing well financially, and they've exhausted all other loan options, both from family and the bank. I figured they would text me, ask me to loan them a few thousand, and promise to pay it back when they could figure things out. I was absolutely willing to pitch in a few thousand and had even considered giving them some of my tutoring jobs so they could make some extra cash. I was not, however, expecting them to demand I give them all of the money, close to $40,000, I'd made from the ages of 14 to 18. The exact statement my mom had made was, "You made that money under our roof. We were the ones who allowed you to work, so you only have it because of us anyway. We bought you food and clothes for 18 years. That money is only a fraction of what you owe us," and so on. I said that food, clothes, and shelter were the very minimum. It's what they signed up for when they chose to become parents. I didn't ask for any of it, etc. They responded by telling me that if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have the life I have today. I said that they were being ridiculous and hung up. Since that day, both, along with 2 of my siblings, have continuously hounded me about giving them what is rightfully theirs. My siblings, who have never been asked to give them money, are still professing that it's my job as their kid to take care of them. I told them they wouldn't see a cent of my hard-earned money and have no right to make such a request. I'm torn. I feel awful for refusing to help them, but on the other hand, this was their fault. I feel I shouldn't be responsible for fixing their mess. Am I the jerk? What would you do if you were in this situation? Would you give your parents all of that money? Or absolutely not? I can't wait to hear from you.
Of course they should. Their parents deserve it.
Stop screaming at me, lady. I don't work for this pool. So a little background information. I work as a teacher part-time at a regular high school, social studies. and I work part-time with refugees of all different ages. We get a lot of different refugees, and we try to split them up in different levels based on past education/past jobs, their knowledge of our language and society, and the amount of time they can and want to spend on the lessons. For example, a mother of 5 might not have as much time as a young adult without kids. So 2 days a week, I teach these people about our society, but also things like finding a job, how to arrange things with the government, and other problems they might encounter. Now, besides the standard things like language, social studies, etc., we also offer some other things. For example, swimming lessons. We have a deal with a pool walking distance from the school, so once a week, the students that need and want to can learn to swim after their regular lessons. The first few weeks of a term, one of us teachers will walk with them to the pool and will stay for the first 15 to 20 minutes of the lesson to help or support. Keep in mind that the students are adults who usually don't need much help. I had walked with the students to the pool and was sitting on a bench close by. One student was quite nervous, so I stayed a little longer just in case she needed support. The lesson went well, so I was on my phone going through emails and student social media. That might sound creepy and stalkerish, but I actually use social media for assignments because it is a very vital part of society nowadays. In comes Karen. I was told later that she had tried to sign her son up for private lessons, but there were no instructors available at the time slot she wanted, so the son had his lessons in a group. Gasps in shock. Apparently, Karen had seen me helping/cheering on some of the students before I sat down. She came up to me and immediately asked what I was doing. I tried to explain to her that I was working, but she cut me off.
Shouldn't you be paying attention to the students? And aren't 2 instructors a bit much for such a small group?
Again, I tried to explain that I'm not a swim instructor, but just there to guide the students. She wasn't having any of it. If I was just sitting there, I had to have time to teach her son in private, and how I was just lazy and rude for refusing her earlier. Again, I told her, I don't work at this pool, but she just kept going along with her rant. Eventually, the actual swim instructor came up to me and told me the lesson was going well, and if I wanted, I could go back to school. Karen immediately jumped in, asking what she meant. The instructor looked at her confused, because why was she there? And told her I was their regular teacher that walked them here and stayed because it was the first class. I have never seen someone backpedal as fast as Karen in that moment. She got red, stammered a bit about how the instructor should pay attention to her class, and left her quickly. So fast that the instructor called, "No running in the pool," which made her even more red. I had to laugh at that point and explain to the instructor what happened, and she laughed as well. So that was my encounter with a wild Karen. Speaking of pools, it's getting hot out. Have any of you been to the pool yet? And if not, are you going soon? Please let us know.
Oh, I just love the pool, but especially peeing in it.
Am I the jerk for kicking out my daughter after she tried to send my cat to the shelter? The relevant backstory. I have 2 daughters. One is 21 and in college, the other is 26, and because of a lot of factors, finds herself pregnant, divorcing her husband, and needing to live in our house for the foreseeable future, and I am happily married to their mother. The other notable character is my cat, Lieutenant. We call her Loot. I found Loot in a dumpster almost 10 years ago when she was only a week old, got her to the vet, and she has been my best buddy for the last decade. She's now my grumpy old little shadow whenever I'm home. So yesterday I came home from work, and I hear my eldest daughter calling me from the kitchen. My wife and eldest then tell me that Loot is getting old, Dad, and with the baby coming, we didn't think it was safe to keep an old grouchy cat around an infant. So we made the decision today to send Loot to a shelter so that she can find a family that is more in line with what she needs. I told them both they were way out of line, not in so many words, and we would talk when we get back. I drive to the closest shelter, find Loot, prove ownership, pay the $100 fee to get her back, and take her home. So here's the drama part. When I get home, I call a family meeting and tell my eldest she doesn't get to make decisions about my pets without consulting me. Loot only wants to be left alone, and even if it came to it, I would rather exhaust all my options before putting Loot through life at a shelter. My eldest began arguing with me that Loot would be a liability around an infant, and she is unpredictable. Untrue. She is either asleep, sitting on her cat tree, or eating. At that point, I saw red and told her my cat is well trained and dared her to come up with one instance of Loot even scratching someone, which she couldn't, but kept insisting that old cats are inherently dangerous for kids. I then told her that she had 1 month to get a new place to live, as she clearly doesn't respect me or my things, and that if Loot so much as lost a whisker, I would hold her personally responsible. My wife and younger daughter are now begging me to change my mind, as with my eldest's current financial condition, I would probably be condemning her to homelessness, and that my daughter should come before a cat. Am I the jerk for kicking my daughter out after she tried to get rid of my cat? Edit to add. As many people have brought up, no, I'm not being as hard on my wife as my daughter. My wife came up to me last night and basically begged for forgiveness, saying she wasn't thinking and just accepted the things my daughter was saying without checking. Very out of character for her. So I have told her I will need some space for the foreseeable future, but that she and I are okay. Loot is already microchipped and wears a collar and tag. I've also contacted all the shelters around my area and sent them Loot's picture chip ID and my contact information and an explanation that I'm worried someone may surrender my cat without my permission. Would you let someone live with you who tries to get rid of your pets? Please let us know.
She deserves to live there. She's his daughter.
No, this is not the price that's advertised, Karen screams at me. So it's just before last call, and I'm doing the extra cleaning required to keep our restaurant safe, when my closing waitress, who's amazing, comes to me. Daxana, my table is refusing to pay full price. Now, we've had a crazy service and rocked it all night, even with a few hiccups, but I was still in a great mood, especially as it was almost time for me to enjoy my patio. So I put my understanding, compassionate, friendly manager voice on, go to the table, introduce myself, and ask, what seems to be the problem? Karen,
This stupid jerk is overcharging us, and I'm not paying. Here's the price in the menu.
pointing at our new paper menus we give out. Me ignoring her language. Ah, I see, I would also be frustrated. However, as you can see here, and I point a bit above where she says, it says to go, which is not our dine-in prices. Karen,
That's BS. You jerks are trying to rip me off. It clearly states, here's the price, and that's what I'm paying. So you go fix my bill, or else.
now I'm pretty laid back, and even though she was talking to me like this, I'm thinking, okay, I'll buy her a drink or two, and that'll make up the difference, just to get her out of here at this point, and she's making a scene. Me, well, I can probably… Karen,
Forget you. Listen here, I'm not paying this bill. If you don't change it, I'm calling the cops.
at that point, I'd had enough. I was about to be nice, and she decided to treat me and my waitress like garbage. Plus, if I'm being honest, I felt like the first night back, I had to defend my restaurant. Me, so, you're refusing to pay your bill. Are you going to leave? Karen,
Don't you listen, stupid? I'm not paying, and I'm not leaving, you jerk.
me, okay, so you won't leave and won't pay your bill. I'm going to have to call the police on this matter to resolve it. Karen,
Do it. I'll call them for you.
so I go to the kitchen manager, who is also part owner, explain the situation and my plan, and he's like, yeah, if they calm down, discount a couple drinks and send them away. Otherwise, do what you think is best. All right, it's on. For the first time in my 10-year restaurant career, I call the non-emergency police line, explain what's up, and ask if it's worth calling an officer over. Dispatcher, oh yeah, absolutely. It sounds like she's getting aggressive and refusing to pay for a service. That's fraud. We'll send a unit when we can, and if she gets violent, call us back. I knew we were pretty low priority, and the whole time I was hoping they would secretly leave so I could just count it as a walkout. But what followed was the craziest 45 minutes. I was dealing with my tables, last call drinks, her coming in to scream at me a few times, asking where the cops were, calling me and my waitress more names. My favorite line though was,
I have kids at home.
then her husband came in and actually talked to me like a human being. I saw an out and despite the Karen, tried to take it. Husband, look man, I understand the confusion and I know you're not trying to do us over. Is there anything you can do for me though? She won't pay full price and she's on her period. Me, cringe/laughing on the inside because it's the first time someone has actually used that excuse. I was going to offer to buy some drinks, but she started screaming at me. I'd rather not have the police involved, and if you pay this bill, I can call them off and we can all go home happy. So I handed him a discounted bill and kept a copy of the original, hoping he would pay there and this nightmare would be over. Nope, he went back to Karen with his tail between his legs. She stopped screaming at me, but this gave her new ammo, as now she found out I could change the price. She still refused to pay and is now insisting the cops would shut us down when they get there. Side note, I know there's a lot of bad rep for the police, especially right now, but these guys were what every officer should be. They pulled up, calm, cool, and collected. I told them the situation from my side. Customer won't pay, I can't give them anything else for free as per the owner, so I had to call in backup. Then I simultaneously thanked them and apologized for having to call them. Walked them to Karen. They listened to Karen's one-sided story, in which obviously she paints me as an evil villain, but these guys are clued in and already got her number, metaphorically speaking, obviously. So they start poking holes in it. After about 5 minutes of back and forth with Karen starting to shout at the officers, they interrupt her. Officer: "Look, you have to pay your bill or leave, at which point it's theft and you will be charged. Also, it seems like this man already tried to help you out by taking care of a few drinks, and we still had to be called out here. You're going to pay the full price, and we're all going to go home." Karen:
But you're not the court of law. It's advertised as this.
Officer: "Ma'am, I've already had enough of this, and I'm sure both these poor guys have too." Gesturing to me and the husband: "Pay the full bill, or you're spending the night in jail." Thankfully, she came to her senses and asked for the debit machine, didn't tip, and left without another word. As she was paying, I thanked them for coming and told them to never come back. Luckily, with what's going on right now, we have to take information of the party, so I have her name and phone number to make it official. Thanks for listening to my vent. Would you have changed the price on the bill for her, or left it like it was? Please let us know.
They definitely should have changed it. I hate false advertising.
Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for college? I, 51, male, have 2 kids, Katie, who's 17, and Mark, who's 15. I'm seeing a lovely lady, Alice, who has 1 kid, Eliza, who's 17. We met because our daughters are friends and have been seeing each other for about 18 months and have lived together for 6 months. Though we currently live together, our finances are pretty separate. Financially, I do pretty well, and I make more than she does, so I pay about 80% of the house bills. In addition, we both pay for our own individual expenses and for those of our kids: clothes, cars, cell phones, spending money, etc. It had been going really well, and we were talking marriage, which means combined finances. So we started looking at what a budget might look like, and it went pretty well, though we both had to compromise a bit on what we wanted. Then we got to college savings. I put a certain amount of money into Katie and Mark's college funds each month, and I assumed we would be doing the same for Eliza. It turns out that Eliza does not have a college savings fund. There is no money set aside for her future education at all. I was stunned. I know Eliza is planning on going to college. Where to go is one of the favorite topics of conversation at the dinner table for both girls. Eliza is not gifted athletically or academically, so there's little chance of a scholarship. I asked Alice what her plan was, and she replied she didn't have one. I pointed out how expensive college was. She asked me how much I had saved for Katie and Mark, so I pulled up those accounts. She said that was plenty. We could just divide it in 3. I said absolutely not. I had started saving that money for each of the kids before they were even born, and it belonged to them. She said, what about treating the kids equally? I replied that equally meant giving each of them the same amount going forward, but not taking money away from 2 of them to give to the other. She said, what about the retirement funds? I said no again, because of both the hit we would take on taxes and what it would do to our early retirement plans. I had worked hard to save to be able to retire early and travel. Alice said it was unfair to Eliza not to pay for her college when I'm paying for the other 2. And I agree. But you don't start planning on how to pay for college when the kid is 17. It's not Eliza's fault, but it's not mine either. Alice is accusing me of not caring about Eliza, that I would find a way to do it if it was my kid. I told her that I did find a way for my kids. It was saving for their entire life, not hoping that tens of thousands of dollars would magically appear. It went downhill from there. At this point, Alice and I are not speaking. We won't be getting married, and I seriously doubt we will be together very much longer. I don't think I'm wrong, and neither do the people that I talk to. However, I admit they are biased toward me. I am coming here to get an outside perspective. Am I the jerk? What would you do if you were in this situation? Would you split up the funds to pay for her college as well? Please let us know.
You definitely should.
You sure you want me to do that, officer? So I worked for the IT help desk of our local city council, when one early morning at around 5:30 a.m., my mother stormed into my room, scaring the crap out of me and my cat. Half asleep, I asked why she was screaming at me. Clearly in a panic, she told me that the police were on the phone and asking for me. Now, I won't go into detail, But suffice to say that my first thoughts were, what did I do now? And I didn't do anything, did I? Still half asleep, I walked downstairs and got on the phone and vaguely asked, yes? I got a reply along the lines of,
Dang it, it's always the same with you guys. Don't you know it's market day?
Yeah, every Wednesday, isn't it? It is every Wednesday. Has been since around 1302 AD. Officer.
What? Are you gonna start making a joke out of this?
Me, slowly starting to wake up completely. No. I just don't get. Officer cuts me off angrily.
Your car is on the market square, and they can't set up their stalls, dang it. Get over here now, and move this dang car.
The IT department was next to the market square, so sometimes the car did indeed stay parked there overnight. Me, really having issues with people screaming at me. No problem, be right there. Now, usually I rode my bike to work, but seeing it as it was clearly a pressing matter, I asked my dad, who had awoken from my mother's frantic behavior, to drive me to the market square. On the way there, I explained the situation, and my dad couldn't help but give a chuckle and told me, "Don't do anything stupid," to which I gave him a smile, shrugged, and with a Han Solo-esque grin told him, "Hey, it's the cops." My father snickered and shook his head, knowing that doing something stupid was somewhat of my middle name. If an officer tells you to do something, you do it, right? We arrived at the market, where people were already setting up stalls to prepare for market day, except for where I spotted the car of the IT hardware department, and about 15 meters behind it, a police car with its light flashing. I got out and slowly walked over to the two officers that were standing near their car. One of them immediately launched into a tirade about how we were all the same, and how we, IT guys, always thought we ran things, which basically we did, including their IT. Once he paused, I calmly asked him what he wanted me to do. Again, he blew up, nearly screaming,
"Move the car!"
Not wanting there to be any doubt, I asked if he was sure, and he truly nearly lost it, screaming incoherent words at me. Me, Okay, calm down. I'll do it if you insist. Let me go up to the office and look for the keys. So off I went. I went to our offices, where I was met by our cleaning/coffee lady, who asked why I was in so early. So I explained the situation, and that the hardware department's car was on the market square again. Confused, she asked me, "But that's not your department, is it?" To which I sighed. "Nope. Do you know where the keys are?" So together we looked for the keys, which we found rather quickly. I asked if she'd accompany me down because the police were making me nervous, which she kindly and graciously did. Upon getting back down, it was clear that Angry One hadn't calmed down and that I'd probably taken longer to go get the keys than he wanted. In quick strides, he walked up to us, and without a word, I tried to hand him the keys, which he didn't notice because he screamed in an angry, high-pitched voice, "Move that dang car!" At this point, our cleaning/coffee lady looked at me and said, "But you," I shrugged and gave her the most roguish smile I could muster at that time. She smiled, gently shaking her head. Once more, and just to make sure I got things straight, I calmly and politely asked, "So you're telling me I have to move that car?" Now, I had seen cops get angry before, but never turn red with figurative steam coming out of their ears. He blew up and pulled out his nightstick and took one step towards, as if to indicate I was getting close to either getting arrested or smacked over the head. I turned and quickly made it over to the car, nervously but loudly muttering things like, "Under duress," and "Not my job." I got in the car, fumbled with the keys somewhat, and in 3 to 4 tries started the car. I waited about a minute, and then the car sputtered forward and stopped. I tried again. Again, the car sputtered, but then it took off like a rocket. All I remember from the short drive is seeing our cleaning/coffee lady bursting out laughing as I passed just before I plowed straight into the police car. As I was getting out, somewhat dazed, I saw the 2 police officers standing there, white as sheets and utterly perplexed. I stammered at them the immortal words, I don't know how to drive, man. I just pick up the phones and help people." So yes, they had called the only person in all the IT departments that didn't have a driver's license and just worked on the phones, and one that doesn't really like the police, nor getting woken up hours before I have to get up. I suffered no consequences as there were CCTV cameras filming it all, with audio, which I of course knew, and our cleaning/coffee lady clearly heard the cop order me to move the car. Having known the mayor since I was 12 helped me too, of course. So the moral of the story is, always do what the police tell you to do. You need to help my daughter get over her breaking up with you. A few years ago, I was dating a girl named Hannah. I say was because that's no longer the case. Hannah and I were in our mid-20s when we met and quickly started dating shortly after. A few weeks into the relationship, I would be spending more time at her apartment than at my own house. Her parents paid for a place for her. We were inseparable. Unfortunately, my rose-colored glasses didn't alert me to the emotional burden that I had placed on myself by being with Hannah. Hannah was, unfortunately, not emotionally well. Of course, being in love tends to let you gloss over these things, and I managed to forgive her for going through my phone or stalking other girls I talked to online, or for giving me the silent treatment when we argued about something, or for texting her exes behind my back. However, all this came to a head after just over a year of dating when she accused me of cheating on her with multiple women in a big spectacle in front of her classmates and friends in public after giving me the silent treatment for over a week. I decided I had had enough, and when she told me, "We are done," I decided to walk and never look back. Of course, this didn't stop Hannah from trying to do a 180 and get me back, which resulted in me having to block a total of 7 different numbers from her friends, and her burner phones before she eventually hacked my Reddit account and, after sending me messages through my profile, deleted it. I know what you're saying. Where are the entitled parents? Enter stage left. Hannah's family and I had gotten along very well. Her dad and I met weekly for baseball, and her mom and I would often discuss things for her apartment. I would often go over for dinner. It became rather apparent that her parents had difficulty dealing with her emotional well-being, and that they would many times look to me to help her during these episodes. So when Hannah came home in tears that I left her, her parents immediately contacted the one person who was there to help her during her emotional distress, me. In case you weren't paying attention, Hannah and I are in our mid-20s, and I was being contacted by her mother trying to explain how this was a misunderstanding and that I should come take her back. When it became apparent that I was not interested in doing so, her mother allowed Hannah to contact me through her phone, berating me for ghosting her and leaving our fabulous relationship. When Hannah finally hacked my Reddit and I was forced to change a plethora of passwords as well as check all my accounts for suspicious activity alongside contacting a lawyer, I finally reached out to her family to tell them what had occurred. I was met by her father, stating that I needed to come discuss this breakup with her, that she was distraught and nobody else could help her but me. Apparently, I needed to help the person who broke up with me get over breaking up with me because I'm her boyfriend. It was then that I said to her father that no, Hannah is not my problem anymore, that I am under no obligation to help her through her breakup, and then informed him of the hacking and threatened legal action. He once again tried to ask me to at least contact her, because I could only assume her parents were having difficulty handling her emotionally. I once again repeated what I said, that I have my own feelings to worry about, and reminded him that she broke up with me, and you want me to come help her through this? I hung up. I never heard from any of them again, probably because they're all still blocked. Have you ever dealt with a really difficult breakup? If so, how did you go about doing it? Please let us know.
It's all his fault.
Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend's mother she raised a psycho who needs to be in a facility? So I, female 26, have a boyfriend, male 24, and recently he got into a dispute with the neighbor's kids. They accidentally kicked their football into our yard and they came into the garden to get it back. To be honest, I didn't care, but my boyfriend started screaming at these 11-year-olds about how they are poorly raised and their parents should be ashamed. I was mortified. I sent the kids some chocolates and sweets and apologized profusely for his behavior. I was seeing red flags and told him this behavior was not normal. He kind of brushed me off, and I told him if he pulled anything like that again, he was gone. The next week, the ball came into our garden, and I was about to throw it back to the kids when my boyfriend stormed outside and took the ball inside. I told the kids that I would bring it back in a minute. He went into the bathroom and emerged 10 minutes later wearing gloves, and the football was covered in his doo-doo. What the heck? I asked him if he was out of his mind, but he stormed past me and threw it over the fence, screaming, Take that, you jerks! I screamed, and girl, I mean screamed at him about how he was a total jerk and I wanted him out of my house and he's a disgusting monster and that they were just kids. I screamed, and eventually he left. I deleted all of his games off his PS4 and gave it to the kids as an apology. I was so embarrassed. My ex-boyfriend's mom messaged me asking me what had happened, and I responded with, "What happened? What happened? You raised a sociopath who covered a football in his own doo-doo and threw it at someone, and he needs to be in a facility because something is wrong with him, and God knows how I hadn't seen any red flags about this monster you raised during the 7 months we dated." I know I'm in the right for what I did to my boyfriend, but am I in the wrong for snapping at the mother for something she had no direct involvement in? What do you think? Was it wrong for her to go off on his mother like that? Please let us know.
I thought it was a great idea what he did with that football. I might have to try that myself.
Karen doesn't wear a mask, and I make her regret it. So yesterday, I was at the store to get some groceries for today's Pizza Sunday. Due to what's going on, you have to wear a mask if you plan to go into any kind of store. But a lot of people just brush it off and try to go inside without one. But in larger stores and markets, the staff stops you and tells you you need to get a mask and then come back. Like the responsible person I am, I always wear a mask when I go to the store. Because the store is close to my house, 90% of the time I do my shopping there. Naturally, I know the few staff members that work there, so while I shop, I also make some small talk with them. I'm guessing this lady saw me a bunch of times in the store and thought I was working there. While I was shopping, she approached me and asked,
"Hey kid, where can I find baking soda?"
Naturally, I replied, "It should be next to the flour." She said thanks and walked off. 1 minute later though,
"Hey kid, it's not there."
Me, "Okay, what do you want me to do about it?"
"Well, go look in the back. There has to be some. I really need it."
Me, it clicked. "Miss, I don't work here." Karen, confident as heck.
"Of course you do. You're wearing a mask."
Note, all the staff are wearing synthetic gloves, masks, and red shirts with the store logo, and I was wearing my Nike t-shirt and shorts. Me, confused and baffled. Everyone should wear a mask while in a store. It's required by law. I took a look at her again. "Where's your mask? How did you get inside without one?" I'm guessing there wasn't any staff by the counter, so she just slipped in without anyone noticing. Karen, visibly angry.
"What did you say to me, boy? Where is your manager? I want to talk to him right now."
Me, I sighed. Again, I don't work here. Karen is fuming.
"I want your manager."
As soon as she said that, I had a light bulb moment. You see, I know the manager. She's a sweet person. Let's call her Jess. But if you get her angry, she is the devil. Me, with a grin on my face. "Okay, miss, follow me." We get over to Jess, and before the woman said a word, me, "Jess, this woman isn't wearing a mask." Jess, "Miss, put your mask on while you're in our store." Karen is surprised.
"I don't have one."
Jess, really upset. "Get out!" Karen, realizing she's done for.
"But..."
Jess points her finger at the door. "Now, miss!" Karen realizes she's in trouble and runs out of the store. I just said thanks to Jess and continued shopping. Have you guys been wearing masks? And have you seen anybody who's not? Please let us know.
"You'll never make me wear one of those stupid things."
Am I the jerk for not wanting my boyfriend's brother in my pictures because he has a distracting facial scar? I, 22, female, have been with my boyfriend for 3 years now and things are going great. I have a really good relationship with his family and his parents adore me. They're well off and always give me lots of support. I'm not exactly rich, which I really appreciate. For some context, his brother got into a car accident last year and it was pretty rough. He was mostly fine, but ended up with a permanent facial scar. Nothing wrong with that, he still looks great, but the scar is huge and very noticeable. It's a very sensitive topic, but I think he'll get better soon. Anyway, it was my birthday recently and we all had a nice dinner. Afterwards, I needed some pics for my social media, so I handed my boyfriend's brother my phone and told him to start snapping. Then, my boyfriend asked him to join us too, and I didn't really expect that. His brother wasn't interested in being in the pics with us. Since the accident, he has become very withdrawn and doesn't even like being social, but my boyfriend encouraged him. Eventually, he decided to join us, but I was totally against it. I was kind of upset that I was put on the spot like that, and my boyfriend noticed and asked what's wrong. I said that the scar is just too noticeable and would get more attention, which isn't fair, especially when you consider it's my birthday. I'm not an attention seeker, but I think it's unfair to do that to someone. Also, I just didn't think it would look nice. Apparently, that was horrible of me because everybody was acting like I'm the devil. My boyfriend got really upset and refused to take any pics with me. His parents seemed quite mad too, but they didn't say much. His brother didn't even look very upset. He just gave me a blank stare and left the room. I'm not sure why everybody is acting like I said something so horrible when he didn't even respond. He seemed fine to me, and even if I messed up, why won't any of them straight up tell me? Yesterday I spoke with my boyfriend about it, and he demands that I apologize to his brother. Apparently, it was the first time he actually seemed okay with having his pics taken, and I ruined that. I'm sorry about that, but I don't think that's relevant at all. I just feel like I'm being blamed for everything. My boyfriend keeps saying that I hurt his brother's feelings, but I don't see any evidence of that. I personally don't see why an apology is needed. Am I the jerk? Well, what do you guys think? Is she the jerk? Or has she done nothing wrong? Please let us know.
Oh, give her a break. It's her birthday.
Do my shopping for me. No, I'm working. So this happened a week or two ago. So for those who haven't seen my previous post, I'm currently working as an online shopper at a certain orange and maroon British shop. The job basically involves me going around the store picking up shopping for 1 to 8 people at a time. On that day, there was a lady there with her daughter, who was probably no less than 17, who looked a little confused, so I put on my best friendly customer assistance voice while quickly throwing an item in my cart. "Are you all right there, madam?" She darts her head around and says, "Oh, we're looking for..." Insert item I don't remember. I remembered knowing where the item was, and I was going to that aisle anyway, so I just said, "Oh yeah, I'm going there right now. I'll show you where they are." I take her to where the item she was looking for was and park up my cart to grab the stuff I need. She asks me to grab it for her. It was hung up on a shelf, and I'm tall and have long arms, and she was pretty short. The daughter was on her phone, so I was like, "Of course." She throws the item in her bag and says, "I need..." the second item next. "Could you take me to where that is?" The following conversation ensues. Me: "Oh, sorry, I can't. I need to finish up this shopping." Her: "Well, you're doing shopping anyway. You can just get whatever you need in the same place as what I need. What if I can't reach?" Me: "There'll be another member of staff, or you could ask your daughter to help." Her: "This is incredibly disrespectful. Whatever happened to the customer is always right." Me: "Nothing. I just can't follow you around and do your shopping for you because I have to do my work." Her: "Go get your manager. I'll sort something out with them." Daughter: "Oh, for heck's sake, Mom. You're not doing this again." Her: "Don't you dare swear at me, young lady." Her daughter: "Because I should listen to you? The lady who treats store employees as if they're servants and calls the manager when it doesn't go her way? I was honestly counting down the minutes until you started being a jerk towards the employees. I started to shuffle away. While I can stand my ground in confrontation, I feel super awkward during domestic disputes." Her: "We're going to talk about this when we get home." Then to me: "Where are you going?" Daughter: "No, we aren't. Leave the guy alone. I'm walking home and staying in my room." The mother grabs her daughter by the arm, and people are looking into the aisle and skipping it to avoid all this conflict. Thankfully, my little scanner has a button to call a manager, so I quickly press that before things get worse. The manager sees the mother and daughter screaming at each other. Manager: "Both of you, break it up." Suddenly, the entitled lady becomes like a little kid who's telling on a mean classmate. Mother: "Oh, thank goodness you're here. Your employee is refusing to help me and told my daughter that he'll get her free stuff if she beats me up." Daughter: "That's not true. My mom is being her usual self, wanting everyone to bend to her will. When I wanted to leave, she grabbed me." Manager: "Yes, I saw that. Tiger, what happened?" Me: "I showed this woman where this item was, and she wanted it down from the shelf. Then she demanded I follow her around in case she can't get something else." Daughter: "And I can vouch for that." Manager: "Right then. Ma'am, I'm giving you one chance to leave the store right now. Otherwise, I will call security and have you escorted out." There was no objection from the mother, and she left before security was called. The daughter got some free stuff for having to put up with all that, and I got to finish after my current shop. So just under an hour early, though that was probably because there wasn't much stuff left to gather. Neighbor parks his car and blocks my exit. Don't mess with a woman scorned. This happened about 5 years ago when I moved into a wheelchair-friendly unit. I'm a 29-year-old disabled female in a wheelchair. The unit complex I live in has 20 units, upstairs and down, but only half of the tenants have assigned parking. I have a car space, but this neighbor didn't. It took a while for tenants to get used to this. It was a brand new complex, and the tenants all moved in at the same time. But one of them, let's call him Jerk, either didn't get it or didn't care. He would constantly park in my car space, and every time I confronted him about it, he claimed not to know, but he had parked there anyway. I informed the landlords about this, and they sent out constant letters until he finally got the message. But did he park on the street? Nope. He started to park his car along the driveway, sometimes blocking my exit. To get out of the door, I go down a ramp and then turn onto the driveway, but he would park his car and block my exit. There was no back exit, so this was my only way to exit my place. I told the landlords about this and the council parking officer in hopes that they could make him stop doing this. I confronted Jerk a few times and told him not to do this and warned him that his car might get damaged if I tried to get my wheelchair around it. But did he listen? Nope. One glorious day when I needed to leave, I saw his car parked halfway across my exit. There was just enough room for me to get around, but I knew I would scrape the side of his car with the side of my power wheelchair if I tried to get around it. I had two options: stay home and miss my appointments, or try to get around his car. I went with option B. Before you have a go at me for damaging his car, it was an old beat-up tin can that already had some scratches on it. What's one more? When I got home, his car was still parked there. So I called a tow truck company and told them there was a car parked illegally, blocking access to my home. I don't like using my disability to my advantage, but I'd had enough. The call went something like this. Me. Hello? Yes, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I'm in a wheelchair and I can't get into my house because there's a car parked there. It's my neighbor and he won't stop parking there. I need to get inside.
OMG, what? What's the address? We'll be right there.
10 minutes later, the tow truck arrived. He saw the car and me stuck out in the driveway with tears, dramatized for effect, in my eyes. Not long before the driver was able to tow the car away, Jerk came out screaming,
"Wait, what are you doing? That's my car!"
The rest was Jerk yelling inaudible sentences, asking why his car was being towed, and threatening to sue the tow truck company. Based on the crab fest of a tin can he calls a car, he didn't have a leg to stand on. He moved away about 2 years ago, but in the remaining time he lived there, he parked his car on the street. Have you ever had someone who kept parking in your spot? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know.
I park wherever I want to. I don't care whose spot it is.
Am I the jerk for not giving my cousin his share of my inheritance? I, 25 female, am the oldest great-grandchild of my great-grandparents, and my brother, 22 male, is the second. When we were born, my great-grandparents set aside trust funds for each of us that have grown to about $200,000 each. I'm planning on using my money for a down payment on a house eventually. Now, my great-grandparents both passed away before my cousin, 18 male, was born. Since he didn't exist when my great-grandparents were setting aside money in their wills, he didn't get anything from them. My aunt, cousin's mom, recently found out about the trust funds and became incensed that her kid didn't receive anything. She messaged me and my brother telling us that she knows we will do the right thing and split all our money 3 ways so that it's fair, because that's what your great-grandparents would have wanted you to do. I talked to my grandmother, and she said her parents gave me and my brother that money for us to use and that it's completely up to us if we want to share it or not. She also made a good point that since there are now 30+ great-grandchildren, if my aunt really wanted it to be fair, then we would have to dole out the money among every other great-grandchild, and everyone would end up getting less than $15,000. I'm not sure what the right thing to do is. My brother and I have discussed it, and we agree that it's technically not fair for my cousin to not get anything. On the other hand, my cousin's other grandparents, that I am not related to, are billionaires with a capital B, and he's their only grandchild, so he's set to inherit everything from them and is in no way hurting for money. My parents think that my brother and I should ignore our aunt and keep the money to use it and to pay off any debts and get a head start on our adult lives, though I didn't do anything to earn the money and would be fine if I did give up some of it. Would I be the jerk if my brother and I kept our inheritances, even if it isn't fair to our cousin? Edit. This got a ton more attention than I expected. Thank you everyone for the advice. My brother and I have been reading as many comments as we can, and this has really made us feel better about keeping the money. I'm going to write a letter to my aunt saying that although I understand where she's coming from, We are going to use the inheritances as our great-grandparents left them for us specifically. What would you do? Would you share the inheritance with your cousin or keep it? Please let us know.
Give me that wheelchair. Now!
A little background on me, so you understand the serious situation this whole thing put me in. About 6 years ago, I wound up with several health conditions that all interacted with one another, creating a domino effect of health problems. During the course of those 6 years, plus this current year, I have been hospitalized for no less than a week at a time, 15 times. Despite getting most of the conditions stabilized, I have a few more hurdles to overcome. Those being 1, a heart condition where my pump capacity is at 35% and requires me to get a pacemaker, plus 1 leaking valve. And due to the low pump and all my hospital stays, I've lost almost all the strength in my legs to where I toddle wobble walk with a cane. But to truly retrain my legs, I need to use a rollator, a stroller with 4 wheels and a seat. Also, my legs are so weak, I don't have the strength for the lift or push of the legs to get me upstairs, and more especially, getting off the floor or ground if I fall. Once I'm down, and it takes about 2 to 3 men to help me get upright. So, one day I go to a store to grab some food and medical supplies. Won't say the store's name, but they usually wear Smurf-colored vests. I slowly toddle walk into the store, and that day I am wearing black jeans with holes, bright red suspenders to hold the pants up due to all the weight I've lost, a white short-sleeved dress shirt, and a very bright and loud red, green, and goldish-colored plaid vest. I don't even make it past the security sensors when I'm suddenly grabbed from behind by a woman who looks like she's never worked a day in her life and done up to the nines, so she looks like she should be shopping at high retail stores in New York or Paris instead of this local place. I'm going to call her Snooty. I know they usually call these ladies Karen, but my bonus mom's name is Karen, and she has never treated me badly, so Snooty it is for me. Thus, the playbill for this little production is going to be me, Snooty, store security, store manager, and of course, kind of piercing together what I remember from the argument conversation. As stated, I didn't even make it past the security sensors at the building entrance when Snooty grabs me from behind by my right elbow and attempts to spin me around. I shift as best I can, rollator and all, and see this highfalutin lady with an exceptionally annoyed look on her face.
Excuse me? Did you not see me try to flag you down? How could you miss us? You walked right past me and my crippled daughter.
Her daughter isn't crippled. In fact, all she has on is a brace boot around her left ankle and foot. Me, lost in a little bit of confusion. I'm sorry. I thought you were waving at someone you knew in the parking lot. Do I know you?
No, you don't. But you should pay attention to customers when you bring in the handicapped items such as that wheelchair. I flagged you down because my daughter needs it.
Me, stammering a little. I'm sorry, but this isn't a wheelchair.
Yes, it is. This store provides them for handicapped customers, and you need to do your job and give this one to us.
That's not my job. In fact, I don't have a job. I'm in the middle of getting approved for disability.
Really? What a world. Anyone thinks they can get away with lying and excuses. Just give me the wheelchair, and I'll be nice and won't report you.
I don't work here, lady.
Yes, you do. You're wearing a vest, and this is one of the store's wheelchairs.
She places a hand on one of the bars on my rollator and grabs tightly. No, I do not work here, lady. I am a customer. I'm not wearing the right kind of vest. This item doesn't belong to the store. It's not a wheelchair, it's a rollator. And the store doesn't provide wheelchairs. They provide scooters, which are located behind you. Let go of my walker. Snooty attempts to jerk the rollator from me.
I am going to report you for being rude to customers, especially ones who are handicapped. You're not following the ADA laws. That'll get you fired for certain.
Me, pulling back on my rollator.
Again, I do not work here. This doesn't belong to the store.
It belongs to me. It's not a wheelchair, and your daughter isn't handicapped. She has an ankle brace on, probably meaning she just twisted or sprained her ankle. Grab her a scooter if you want, but leave me alone.
More lies, more lies. I am taking this wheelchair, and I am going straight to the head manager to have you fired.
What happens next is a tug of war, to the best of my ability, between myself and the lady with my rollator. She eventually does something kind of intelligent, and she pushes on one of my poles, which causes me to stumble backward, eventually tripping over my own feet, and kaboom! Down I go to the floor, slamming my head to the floor. I'm in a tremendous amount of pain. The room and my head is spinning. The lady is saying something to me in scolding tones, shaking her finger at me, but my head is ringing. I'm now short of breath, so I don't really hear her nor understand her. She huffs and walks away, and I was told she was slightly cursing as she was having trouble trying to push her daughter around in the wheelchair. Note, rollators are made so you can walk facing the seat. Thus, the handlebars face out away, not from behind the seat. Several minutes go by. Folks are trying to help me get up. Finally, there comes in a gentleman, and I believe his 2 sons, all of whom look like they could be professional linebackers, who managed to get me up and escort me to one of the benches just inside the entrance doors. Just a couple minutes more, and the store manager and a security guard come walking up to me with very stern looks on their faces. Manager: We understand you were trying to take a wheelchair from a handicapped customer and that you were, glancing up and down at me, well, obviously, attempting to pass yourself off as an employee of our store. Me: No, I was trying to come in here to buy some groceries and medical items when this woman accosted me, telling me I needed to give her my rollator. Security: Well, this woman said you tried to manhandle her to take it away from her. I explained my medical conditions and how it's impossible for me to be able to manhandle anyone at the present time or foreseeable future. The man and sons who helped pick me up informed the manager and security that I had to be picked up off of the floor, that I had no leg strength as far as they could tell. After this, the manager and security look me over and then look at each other with expressions that said this needed to be looked into further. Security called for another officer to have them find the lady and her daughters and bring them up to the front of the store. When they arrive, Snooty starts right on in.
You've got the right, or should I say, the wrong, man. He needs to be fired. Now. And I have a good mind to press charges against him and the store for his assaulting me.
Manager: Ma'am, I can't fire him, as he doesn't work here.
Yes, he does. He's wearing one of your vests.
Manager: You mean a vest like this? He raises up a side of the vest he's wearing. It looks nothing like our vests, ma'am. It also doesn't have our name nor our logo on it.
Well then, he tried to impersonate an employee so he could attack the disabled. I still wish to press charges.
Security: Ma'am, he says this stroller is his.
This is not his wheelchair.
Me: It's not a wheelchair. If she owned it, she'd know it's not one. Also, if it was hers, why does she have my wallet and prescription list in the basket under the seat?
That shows why you're not the owner. There's no basket under the seat.
Security politely helps up the daughter out of the rollator and onto a bench seat, walks over and flips the seat up, revealing a little basket which contains my wallet and my newest list of prescriptions to order. Snooty now looks up, wide-eyed and somewhat terrified. Security tells his partner to make sure she doesn't go anywhere. Manager and security proceed up the staircase to the manager and security offices. They are gone for about 20 minutes and then come back. Security informs Snooty that the incident was all caught on camera and proves she's the one who started everything, accosted me, and then walked off with my rollator. She starts screaming and threatening security and the manager with lawsuits and such, but is cut off when an ambulance crew arrives, followed by the local police. The ambulance crew got the gurney prepped for me with the backboard and neck brace. Not that I needed it, but with the fall,
They have to make sure I'm extra stable and taken in to see if I have anything wrong with my neck, back, or a concussion. They get me loaded and I'm waiting a few minutes when the police come back from the offices and ask me what I'd like to do. I can be a forgiving guy, usually given my mood and circumstances, but I was still hurting, in utter disbelief of what this lady did, and upset beyond all feeling. I let her have it. I told the officers I wanted to press charges. I'm not sure what all happened to the lady, although I know she didn't help herself out. As I was being rolled out the doors on the gurney, I saw her break away from the police, take a defensive stance, and then she started flailing and smacking at them with her purse and arms, as well as kicking their legs with her pricey name-brand pumps. It didn't take long before they had her on the ground, and the handcuffs becoming the next bit of bling around her wrists, looking oh so plain compared to her bracelets. I didn't have to do anything. About a week later, I got a letter from the county courthouse informing me that her case was already heard, the store video, manager, and security's testimony, as well as those from a couple of other people who came forward after realizing what it was they saw when they walked past us, was more than enough to convict her. I don't know if she served time in jail or community service, but either way, I hope she got to be seen in something either bright orange or maybe an old-fashioned, low black and white striped dress.
My mom turned her guest room into a nursery after I told her she will never meet my child. I am currently pregnant with my first child, and both my mom and stepdad have been terrible to me and my partner the entire time. Told us we would be unfit parents because we aren't married yet. Legitimately screamed at my partner for knocking me up, even though we planned the pregnancy. I finally decided to cut contact with them a few months ago after I found out I was pregnant. Having a child can already be a stressful time, and having them around to make it worse was not something I was okay with. If they can't be nice to my partner, then they don't get to see our baby. Plus, they are the kind of people who don't wear masks in public and actively choose to be in large gatherings with no social distancing, so them seeing a newborn is out of the question. One day I sent my mom a very detailed email of why she is not allowed to be a part of my life anymore and will not be seeing her grandchild. To make things even better, I also noted that we will be moving across the country shortly after she is born to be closer to other family members. So not only is she cut off, but we are literally moving far away and never coming back. She responds by showing up at our house at 11 p.m., screaming outside our door about how it's her baby and she deserves to be there for it. I tell her to buzz off, and eventually she leaves. Months go by, and she will text me randomly asking about technical problems with her Wi-Fi router or something and needs help. Little things like that don't mean much to me, and I sent her the info she needed. My cousin also had a virtual baby shower and sent my invitation to my mom's house accidentally, so my mom came by to give it to me. Things slowly came to a point that we were fairly amicable with each other, but I still stood my ground about our boundaries and nothing else had changed. She knew this. Then she sends me a video today that blew my mind. She redecorated her entire guest room to be a nursery. Crib, changing table, $400 worth of newborn clothes, toy chest, stroller, a car seat for her car, and the list goes on. In the video, she is in tears saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe my baby is going to be here soon. This is where she will sleep, where I will change her diapers. These would be her toys." Is she psychotic? Her baby? Sleeping and living at her house? What? So I call her up immediately and I reiterate that we are still moving across the country soon and that she will have no contact with the baby before that. Her response? "Oh, okay, we will see about that." Genuinely confused. What part of "you will have no contact with this baby" does she not understand or thinks will change in the next few weeks when she's born? Is she planning on stealing her from us? I am at a loss for words. Edit. Wow, so many great tips from you guys. Thank you for the advice. I showed my partner the comments I've been getting, and I think we're starting to take this more seriously, and we'll be contacting a lawyer on Monday. I wanted to mention a couple things to clarify as well. I have been seeing a psychotherapist the past few months strictly due to the relationship I've had with my mother throughout my life, and all of that is documented. My midwife and hospital is also very aware of the situation and the emotional stress I've been going through. So we will definitely be utilizing this in the case that she tries to sue us or call CPS. Also, due to what's going on, only my partner is allowed to be with me during the birth anyway. we will be keeping things hush until after we move. We would have moved months ago if it was financially possible for us. We also spent a lot of money on my birth center here that is non-refundable. She is due in August and our lease ends in September. We already have everything set up to move and the other family is helping us out. Just a waiting game at this point. My partner is the power of attorney if something happens to me during the birth. We are currently in a state that is against grandparents' rights. The only way she would be able to sue for visitation is if both myself and my partner were deceased. Even after we move, she still cannot file for GPS if she is living in this state. What would you do if you were in this situation? And what would you say to the entitled grandma? Please let us know.
She deserves to see that baby.
Am I the jerk for burning my mom's diaries because I want nothing to do with her? You can probably guess that I had a strained relationship with my mother. She had an affair while married to my dad, and she ended up leaving my dad for her affair partner. My dad was a good man before the affair, but he took it hard and allowed it to destroy him. I was left to play son and parent to him while my mother started a new family. It was hard to watch her play mom to her new kids and pretend like I didn't exist. I might occasionally get a call from her, but she was so busy raising her new kids that she didn't have time for me. It was also hard to understand why those kids had so much more than me. We were poor, and why she was okay with that. As I got older, teens, she did try to reestablish a relationship with me, but I wasn't interested. She was still trying to mend fences when she died last year, but I will at least give her credit for trying. She tried very hard to have a relationship with me, but my heart was too hardened for that to be possible. One of the things she left for me was her diaries from the time she was a teenager. She also left me some letters she had kept over the years and some writings. Her hope was that I would read them and get to know her better. She wasn't expecting me to forgive her, but it was her way of trying to make up for the years when we had little contact. My siblings knew about this and asked if they could make copies once I was done with them. I didn't promise them anything. Those diaries sat in my study/home office for many months. I didn't want to read them, but I felt like I needed to do something. It was a friend of mine that suggested I burn them as a catharsis, which is what I decided to do. I went over to his place one weekend and we burned all of it. He was right. It did make me feel better. I feel like I now can be done with her forever. When my siblings found out about it, they were upset. They told me that I had no right to do that, and if I didn't want the diaries, I should have given them away. But I told them that they were mine to do with as I pleased, and I had every right to burn them if I wanted. My wife said she agreed with them and thought my decision was spiteful. She said she felt like I might have even wanted to do it so my siblings could not have the diaries as a way of punishing them. She also feels like it could have been an opportunity for healing as a family that is now lost. My wife bases her opinions on the fact that I didn't discuss my plan, with which she thinks is because I knew she'd urge me not to do it. I don't agree with her take. I did this because I felt like this is what I needed to do to move on from the situation. But am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Was this okay or not at all? Please let us know.
Oh, I just love burning things.
Am I the jerk for making my son make dinner after he insulted his sister's cooking? My daughter, who's 15, has recently taken up cooking and baking. Our oven sucked, so we got her a new one as an early birthday present, and we just needed one. She's been baking non-stop and recently started making us dinner because my son and I are working hard to redo our backyard. Think building a shed and hardcore gardening. Since she's inexperienced, my daughter started out with a really easy recipe that involved frozen vegetables. The dish was great. The carrots were a little underdone, but I thought that just gave it a little extra crunch and didn't say anything. My son, however, has always made fun of his sister and comments on everything he sees her doing in the kitchen. While eating dinner, he said something along the lines of, "Some poor excuse for cooked vegetables," which made my daughter upset. She takes criticism to heart, and this comment kind of crushed her pride. I told my son that his comment was unacceptable and that he should be grateful that he had a fresh meal ready for him when we decided to take a break from the yard work. I also told him that he should make dinner tomorrow since he thinks it's so easy. Now, some things about my son. He does very good, hands-on kind of work, which is why I have him out with me doing the hard labor in the yard. He hates cooking, and since my husband is a very good cook, he expects his dad to do the cooking for him. I sometimes worry for when he goes off to college and doesn't know how to make anything for himself. When I told him that he had to make dinner tomorrow, he complained and said he didn't know what to make. I didn't back down and told him to think of something. After dinner, he approached me and asked if I actually expected him to make dinner. I said yes, it's only one meal. I'm sure he can come up with something. He complained again and said he was sorry for the comment he made. My husband thinks I should just let it go, but I think this would be a good learning experience for him. I'm sure my daughter would appreciate her work being taken more seriously too. So, am I the jerk? Edit. I want to mention a few things. This is not a gender thing at all. My daughter bakes and cooks because she wants to. We have never pushed it onto her as something she should be doing because of her gender. She picked it up herself last year. I do believe that my son should know how to cook before he goes off into the real world. It's just been hard when he actively rebels against anything cooking-wise. I will not back down from this. Thank you for your support. Edit. The oven being a birthday present was my daughter's idea. I didn't word it correctly in the original post. That's my mistake. Our old oven was on its last legs, and she was the one who begged my husband to buy a new one. My husband had been holding off on it because of money, and no one used it enough to warrant a new one until recently. Since she is the one to use it the most, and she's the one who went out with her dad to pick it out and make sure it was perfect for her as well as my husband, she dubbed it her birthday present. It will not be the only thing she receives for her birthday, and we had already picked out all of her presents before the oven. So what do you think? Should he have a go at making dinner himself? Do you think it would help him be a little more appreciative? Please let us know.
I don't blame him one bit. I love complaining about things too.
Why don't you just buy a bunch of pens and put them all over the house? You got it, babe. So my husband works from home and has a very tidy office. I work in a lab and so can't usually work from home. And since our house is small, I never really set up a workspace for myself. And to be honest, I'm not the most organized person, so usually my belongings are found scattered all around the house. My husband once turned around the car when he realized that he forgot to make the bed, so my messiness is a challenge for him. Anyway, one day a few years ago while my husband was out, I had to sign something, couldn't find a pen in my bag, and so stole one from my husband's desk. A few hours later, the following conversation occurred. Husband: Hey, did you take the blue pen off of my desk? Me: Oh yeah, sorry. I rifle through the stack of crap on the kitchen table until I find it. Here you go. Husband, slightly irritated: I wish you wouldn't take my stuff. You're always losing things. Now I'm a little huffy, because while it's true that I lose things from time to time, we're talking about a 1-pound Papermate, not a Mont Blanc. Well, you're the only one with an office full of office supplies. I don't even have any place to keep my own stuff. Husband: Well, why don't you just get a bunch of pens and put them all over the house with the rest of your stuff? Then even you'll be able to find them. And then he stalked back to his office. Okay, fine, I think. Let's do it your way. I hop on Amazon and, oh look, 10 pens for £5. Let's get 3 sets in each color, plus a few pen holder cylinders and a pack of Sharpies for good measure, because you can never have enough Sharpies. Add to cart and confirm. The next day, my malicious package fortuitously arrived while my husband was out of the house. When he returned home, he was greeted by a lovely bouquet of pens in the entryway. He was soon to discover a similar bouquet in the kitchen, on the mantle, table at the top of the staircase, bedroom dresser, and bathroom cabinet. This is a small 2-bedroom house, so pens had suddenly become the primary design motif. His only comment was an exasperated, "Really?" To which I just grinned in reply. He did move the one out of the bathroom, but the others stayed where they were, and actually were pretty handy. I have not needed to borrow any of his pens since, so I like to think we both won. Can I talk to someone who knows things? Like a man? This popped into my mind recently. I used to work at a retail tropical fish store, and weird as it is, we were very well known. We used to provide the aquarium with rare fish, and people used to drive from 2 to 3 states over if they were true fish people to come buy from us. I, at the time, 17 female, was an expert in tropical fish and koi. In fact, it was my job that summer to be the koi and outdoor pond point person, and my job was not only stocking the ponds, but managing all of the plants, caring for them, and knowing every bit of information and all of the prices of the various koi and goldfish we had. I knew diets, temperature ranges, places of origin, special breeds. I knew it all. They would even call me with questions on my days off. That clearly did not matter to one customer though. He came inside the store and asked for some help with koi outside. I happily agreed as I was the only person not on my lunch break. Now, this guy frankly seemed put off by me offering to help. So instead of buying anything, he decided to quiz me for 20 minutes about the koi, goldfish, and pond plants to try to get me to admit I didn't know something. I answered every single one of his stupid questions. Some were really stupid. And at the end of 20 minutes, he had the nerve to say, "Can I talk to someone who knows things?
Like a man?
Full emphasis and tone on those words too. Sure you can, I say with a fake smile. Let me get John for you. Here's the malicious compliance. John, name changed, was 75, retired, annoying as heck, and crazy. My boss didn't even want him to be hired, but he owed John a favor. Now, John is an expert in goldfish, but he hates koi and outdoor ponds. John also, like I said, is really annoying and crazy, but he had a soft spot for me, so we always would chat. I went inside to find John and explained to him that this customer wanted a man to talk to. John asked me why he wanted to speak to a man when I was the pond point person, and I told him that he clearly just didn't like that he was speaking to a girl. John nods knowingly, gets this evil grin on his face, and goes to help the customer. 5 minutes later, I hear a man yelling in the parking lot. I run outside and find the customer screaming at John.
What is wrong with you? Does nobody know anything around here? I will never come back. You're all horrible and know nothing about fish, and you're a terrible employee.
Or something to that effect. I watch the guy hop into his car, slam the door, and drive off. I asked John what happened. He said, "Oh yeah, no, every time he asked me a question, I said, not sure. Good question though. I could go get OB and ask. She's really our pond expert." And apparently, he did not like that. Customer, if you read and remember this, forget you. Thanks for reading. Have you ever had a pet fish? If so, what kind were they? Please let us know.
I used to love flushing goldfish down the toilet when I was little.
Am I the jerk for not wanting to babysit my sister's kids? We've got me, 25, female. We've got sister, 24, female. We've got mom and dad, who are 58. So, I am bi, and when I was 17, I had a girlfriend. My sister found out by accident, and after begging her not to tell my parents, she didn't. And then, on my birthday, she told my parents. Long story short, I was kicked out and disowned, and my lovely aunt took me in and cursed out everyone in my family for doing that. That year was honestly heck for me, since my sister then gossiped about it at school. Thank God my friends didn't care, or I would have gone crazy. So when I was 19, I broke up with my girlfriend after a year and found my now husband, and I got a house, so everything is good now. So when my family found out I had a then boyfriend, they were happy I finally turned straight, which then made me yell at them and told everyone to never call me. So a few days ago, my sister called me like everything was okay and asked me to babysit her 2 kids. I declined immediately. She started begging me, saying that she needed to shop and needed a day off, and asked me why I was being so difficult. I told her that she was the one who made my 17 to 19 years difficult and that she should buzz off and hire a babysitter. She then started yelling at me, saying that was like 8 years ago and that I shouldn't be holding a grudge, and then yapped about how family is family. I told her to hire a babysitter and hung up. My husband supports me for doing that, but now my family have been calling me and saying I'm being unreasonable. Am I the jerk? It's been like 8 years, so that's why I'm asking. Edit. She has apologized to me. Sorry for not adding that in, but it wasn't genuine. It was, sorry for doing that. You know I suck at secrets. As you noticed, we don't talk. Edit to address some things. 1. When my life was finally on track and I had a happy life with my boyfriend, now husband, my parents reached out to congratulate me being straight again. I told them to buzz off. My sister also reached out and we did talk before she told me that she was sorry about it and that I should have known secrets are not her forte, which was a big lie, by the way. She waited till my birthday to tell my parents because we didn't have the best relationship, really. So I've avoided her, and it's obvious she feels no remorse. I asked her if she felt any remorse, and she told me that she did the right thing because I would not have become straight had she not made me cut off. So her calling me out of the blue is strange, since I hadn't talked to her for months really before. The reason I have not touched the block button is because I would rather be in contact just in case an emergency happens. I don't really know why. Guess it's because I just want them to genuinely apologize. Entitled Mom's debit card doesn't work, claims I broke it. As many of you in the US are aware, and possibly outside the US, but I digress, most bank cards have a square chip at the bottom of the card. It's supposed to be an added security measure or something, along with a normal stip on the side for swiping. Most stores have a chip reader added to their machines, but some still don't. This happened a couple years ago at the King of Burgers in the drive-thru. We hadn't had a chip reader installed at the time, so people had to swipe their cards using the strip on the sides of the card instead of inserting their card to the chip reader. One day, this entitled parent came up to the drive-thru with 3 kids in the back seats. They're pretty irrelevant to the story, beside the fact they were there. She was at the pay window, and when she handed her card to me, I noticed it was snapped along the strip. I informed her that the card won't work. She snapped at me to just use the chip. So I explained to her that our machines don't have a chip reader. Entitled Mom, well, just try the strip. You should have a chip reader. This is ridiculous. What kind of place are you? How am I supposed to feed my kids? I obliged to show her that it wouldn't work. I swiped her card and it read on my computer as an error. So I again informed her that we would not be able to use her card because the strip is snapped. So I began to hand her card back to her. Without saying a word, she glared at me, snatched the card out of my hand, and pulled out of the drive-thru. I just kind of shrugged and forgot about her and got back to the other customers behind her. A couple of moments later, the phone in the manager's office rings. My manager is wearing a headset as well, so she can help take orders when the rush starts, so I can hear parts of the conversation. Not to mention, the back area at this particular store is about 500 feet max, so we're all pretty crammed together as is. Entitled Mom starts going off on my manager about how I refused to take her payment and that I snapped her card in anger and called her names. My manager was able to hear my side of the interaction at the time because of our headsets and just simply told her that she knew what really happened. Entitled Mom started demanding a corporate number, but to be honest, I think my manager was done. She just said this specific location was privately owned and that the owner will be informed before hanging up on her. Kinda anticlimactic, but I was grateful to have my manager shut that down real quick. I've had managers take Karen's side before at other jobs, but that's why I hate customer service. Hope you enjoyed, and thanks for sticking with my dumb ramblings. Am I the jerk for correcting my boyfriend's family on his name? I've been with my boyfriend for 8 years. I'm 28 female, and he's 27 male. I've always known him as Joseph or Joey. His family have known him as Josephine. He only came out to them last year, despite identifying as male for several. They're fairly close-minded people, his family, and don't really understand, but they're tolerant. Ignorant, but tolerant. They occasionally call Joey a nickname. Josie. Cute nickname, but it bothers Joey. He won't speak up about it anymore, as he's done so in the past and has been ignored. He's told me it's not a big deal, and that they're set in their ways. He doesn't want it to be a big deal. Well, Joey's mother recently posted a picture of Joey at a family meal, captioned with the names, and she called him Josie in the picture. Once again, Joey told me not to say anything, but he was crying over it. So I commented and explained to everyone on Joey's mother's Facebook that she doesn't have a daughter, Josie doesn't exist, and it's Joey. Apparently, now a bunch of Joey's mom's friends have called her out and don't want anything to do with her for the problematic behavior towards her own kid. But now, Joey's father wants nothing to do with him while we're together for embarrassing Joey's mom. Joey's extremely upset and has called me selfish because he didn't want to make this a big deal. I think since we are partners, it's offensive for me too, and it hurts to see the disrespect. Am I the jerk? Well, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have spoken up about it or not said anything? Please let us know. Entitled Mom wants me to give her one of my dogs. Okay, so up until this happened to me, I thought most of the entitled parent stories were BS. But this happened to me, and I've started believing a lot more of the stories here. This happened to me a good few months ago. My landlord was selling the house that me and my family lived in, and we couldn't find a house that we could afford to rent because we had to move out. So we ended up moving in with my aunt. My aunt lives pretty close to the center of a small town, 8,000 people, and there's a gate to the back garden beside her house. You can see somewhat into the garden through it. My aunt has 2 dogs, tiny chihuahuas, and I have one, a Beagle Dalmatian mix. She's chubby. So we had 3 dogs living in the house. When the dogs are bored, they love standing at that little gate and barking at people who walk past. One day, I was home alone. My sister was at school and my parents and aunt were working, so I was in the kitchen, cooking dinner for my family while the dogs ran circles around the garden and barked at everything that moved. This also sucked, because there was a vet's office directly beside us, and the vet's parking was behind the office, meaning that anyone who brings any animals into the vet could be seen from our garden, which means they would be seen by the dogs too. And every single time they saw anyone bring in an animal, they went crazy. This meant that it was completely normal for the dogs to be barking like mad. I heard a knock on the door, and I assumed it was my dad coming home from work early or coming to pick up something that he left at home. I usually lock the door when I'm home alone, and he often forgets his keys. The door wasn't locked this time, but sometimes he rings the doorbell without even checking if the door is open. I unlocked the door, and there stood a lady, we'll call her entitled parent, with her kid in tow. The dogs were standing at the gate, absolutely losing their minds that someone dared to stand in front of their house. Then the following conversation happened. Paraphrased, this conversation happened a good few months ago, so I don't remember it very well. Entitled parent: "Hi, sorry for bothering you." I had shouted, "Just come in," at them in Polish earlier, since I thought it was my dad. She probably thought I was getting angry about someone ringing the doorbell. Her apologizing for bothering me made me think she was gonna be nice. Me: "Oh, hello. I saw you have puppies in your garden. They're very nice." Me: "Oh, yeah, they are. My daughter really liked them." Me: "Oh, I'm glad. How many dogs do you have?" There's 3. "Could you give us one?" "What? I'm sorry, no. It looks like you have a lot more than 3 dogs in there. You could give us one." She's smiling, but her eyes are starting to look a lot less friendly. Me: no. There's just 3. "Are you sure? If you're going to be selling the puppies anyways, you can give us one." Me: "Sorry, miss, but they're all grown dogs. I have no puppies to give you. Goodbye." I start closing the door. "Goodbye. They're very nice dogs," she says as she starts walking away. The ending of the conversation was awkward, though it wasn't this abrupt. I don't remember exactly how the ending of the conversation went, though. She didn't drag it out nearly as long as she could have, but that last, "They're very nice dogs," freaked me out so much that I kept the dogs inside for the next few days and only let them into the garden while I was standing there, watching them. It was also crazy to have some lady knock on my door and try to convince me to give her one of my dogs. This one isn't too crazy, but I still thought I'd share. Thanks for reading. Hope you have a good day. What would you tell someone if they knocked on your door and asked for one of your dogs? Please let us know.
I wouldn't even have asked. I would have just taken the darn thing.
Are you colorblind? So I live within walking distance of a ski resort that has a village. I ski, I eat, I have friends there, so I am usually a few times a day at minimum, even when not skiing. One very busy Saturday morning, I was walking through the village, saying hi to friends and employees while walking so I can meet a friend for breakfast. Don't ski on a Saturday unless that is the only day you can. And I'm just avoiding the rental line when I hear an "Excuse me" behind me. Thinking nothing of it, I just keep walking along until someone grabs my shoulder. I spin around to see this really upset-looking Karen. Now, as skiers usually know, at most mountains, all employees wear the same brand of clothing, sometimes all the same color, sometimes 2 to 3 different colors, depending on which department you work in. I am wearing the same brand of clothing, but not in a color at this resort. Karen:
I need you to help me get my kids past this stupid rental line. They have a lesson in 20 minutes.
Me: I don't work here, just walking to meet a friend for breakfast.
You obviously do. I saw you talking to other people who work here.
Me: I am here a lot, so obviously I know people here, but I do not work here.
I know you do. You are wearing the same clothing brand just like everyone else.
Grabs me.
Come help my kids.
Me, pulling away. Get your hands off me. I do not work here. Find someone who does, but I doubt anyone would want to help a jerk like you. It's your fault that you got here so late. No one else's. Walking away.
I am going to find a manager and get you fired, you jerk.
Good luck with that. I'll be at this restaurant if you want to humiliate yourself further. Everyone in line was looking at her. I walk off towards my destination and run into a friend who works at the mountain, rushing in that direction. Me: Hey, friend. Friend: What's going on over there? Sounds like someone was upset. Yeah, some woman thought I worked here and went off on how she was going to get me fired because I won't help her. I'm sure she will be looking for a manager. I would avoid her at all costs. Friend: Probably a good idea. Let a boss deal. Friend heads back to where he is supposed to be handing out trail maps and answering questions about 300 feet from the lady. I head in and get 2 bar stools for me and my buddy. We get coffee and breakfast and are catching up. About 30 minutes after sitting down while we are eating breakfast, I hear,
Over there, that's him.
Karen comes over, grabs my shoulder again, and spins my bar stool, spilling the coffee I'm drinking all over me and my friend's breakfasts. She is there with the manager of security. Manager of security whose kid happens to be besties with my middle kid, Karen.
This is the rude jerk who wouldn't help me. You need to get him fired.
Me, staring daggers straight into her eyes. Wait for it. I did actually say this. Security. He doesn't work here. He lives here.
Well, you should ban him for being so rude and calling me a jerk.
Me. If the shoe fits, you are the one who should be banned from here. You have grabbed me 3 times now. The 3rd time you ruined mine and my friend's breakfast. You really are a jerk. That totally set her off. She was spouting that she was here on vacation and deserved respect for all the money she was spending for her family. Security. Now, we don't like to ban people here. This is a place where everyone should be having fun. Now, if you pay to replace the breakfasts and calmly leave, we can all just go about our days. This guy is super chill. Karen.
There is no way I am paying anything for someone who called me a jerk.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask you to leave our property immediately.
I can't do that. I have to wait for my husband and kids to finish skiing.
Security. That is not an option. You need to leave now. This is private property.
This is not private property, and I am not leaving.
Security. Moves dial on radio. I need you to come to the restaurant.
Oh, are you calling some buddies? I see how all of this works. You are all just friends here, aren't you? And you just hate all the tourists. I pay your salary.
In walk 2 of the local sheriff deputies. They always have a couple at the mountain on the weekends in case of accidents, drunks, etc. They're not usually needed this early in the morning. They walk up to security and he begins explaining the story. Karen.
They are all lying. They're all friends and just protecting each other.
Bartender. I saw her grab him. You can also watch it on the security camera if you want. Police. You grabbed him?
I only grabbed his shoulder to get his attention.
Me. 3 times, with a total grin on my face. Police. Grabbing someone with intent is assault. Would you like to press charges? Me. Actually, yes, I would. Karen starts screeching as they grab her and cuff her up. Luckily, she didn't put up too much of a fuss. I was going to decide to drop the charges after I watched her get perp walked through the village. So, with bartender holding our seats and the kitchen remaking our breakfast, which would be 15 to 20 minutes, my buddy and I followed the 2 sheriffs and Karen getting walked in cuffs through the village with thousands of people watching. Busy weekends, we would get at least 10,000 skiers and boarders. The restaurant and where the sheriffs park are on almost opposite ends, so we had to pass the rental shop. Cue new character. Cool Dad. Cool Dad. You are the guy from earlier. What happened? I explained the situation and told him I was waiting until she was in the sheriff's SUV to tell the sheriff I had changed my mind on pressing charges. I told him she really needed a lesson and hopefully this would be a good one. He asked where I was going to be after he got his kids to their lesson. Late. We told him. I walked over and let the sheriff know I changed my mind about not pressing charges and anything else is between him and security. Buddy and I headed back to the restaurant and shortly afterwards Cool Dad shows up. Cool Dad. I cannot apologize enough for my wife. I remember this verbatim. When one little thing does not go right, the world has to pay. Not just me and my kids, but the whole world. Do you guys want a drink or a shot? I sure as heck need one. So a couple of bloodies and shots later, my buddy and I have become friends with Cool Dad. Turns out, Karen doesn't even like skiing and just sits reading a book while he and his 2 kids ski, but always insists on coming to the mountain and wearing her really expensive ski clothing to look the part. The reason Karen was on the warpath and they were late to the mountain, she couldn't find her favorite hat at the condo that morning. Ran into him and his kids later that week and did some laps with them, and they took me and 2 of my kids to lunch. Whole family was cool except for Karen. So Karen, what did you think of today's stories?
They were horrible.
Horrible? How dare you? These were some of the best we've ever read.
Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. It's ridiculous what people like myself have to go through. Dealing with stupid people like yourself and your subscribers.
Look, Karen, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't you talk about my re-army.
Re-army. Most of your viewers aren't even subscribed to your channel.
70% if I'm correct.
Well, I can't argue with that. That's true. Most of my viewers don't actually subscribe for some reason.
It's because you're stupid, Mr. Reddit.
No, I'm not! Alright guys, let's prove Karen wrong by making sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications.
Pah, they're not going to listen to you.
And if you'd like me, or Karen,
What?
to record a special message for you, come visit me on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.
Never.
And join as a channel member today, and Karen will give you a special shout out in the next video.
Like heck I will.